by Sunday.
Yeah. I was sick too, man. I just played a show on Friday night, and I'm still recovering. And, you know, like, we still kicked ass because, I mean, I think, and I mean this with like as little ego as possible. I mean, even us on our bad days are pretty good, you know? We're just at that place. We've been playing together so long, right? And it's like, and I know when I'm sick, when I can pull down or pull up or whatever. But my voice blew out a couple times on Friday. But that, you know, the cool thing is not everybody knows the songs. So they don't know what that looks like. But yeah, I know what being sick was like, man. It was killing me the last couple of weeks. And you as well.
That was a pretty good show, though, overall.
Good, man. Good.
All right. I'm definitely going to have to do a disclaimer for this one. Everybody, they're coming in. We just kind of talk a little bit to let everybody come online. Of course, for some reason, StreamYard can't send this to my Facebook account. I just checked it. It said public, so I don't know why. So now I won't even be able to double send it to my page and stuff like that. But I don't know why it does that.
Right.
That now I can never check the views because I'm always kind of a view checker. Now I won't be able to, but I'm sure it'll do just fine. Then it got to your page and GBR YouTube. I just don't know why it does that. I just checked my settings, but I'll stop complaining. It's just everything was just fine. I just checked it. Like, okay. Apparently it ain't about me.
It's all about us, man.
Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, GBR family, this isn't an on the spot, but it kind of is almost like a part two. I'm back with Chad Valyear, author of the book Up From the Dark, frontman, singer for the band Valyear. His on the spot was about a month and a half ago or so. Was epic, man. And I think we talked probably a half an hour before we even started the live, just like this. I don't know. It was cool. We hit it off really well. I thought the on the spot was excellent. This guy's an open book. He tells it like it is, doesn't glamorize or sugarcoat anything. And we're talking about this book right here. And I actually read it. You can see the bindings all messed up and bent. I read this sucker. I read the books people send me. Up From the Dark. And I got a bunch of questions that are based off this book that I'm going to ask him. And he said I could ask him anything. So we'll see if we can hold him to that. Brother, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
So much for doing it. And I'm honored to sit down with you. Let me say this before we get into it, and I'll pray us in and then hit you with the first question. This book is a true story, just like is on the spot. I think this will get a little deeper, to be honest with you. Not that wasn't, the first time around, but this is the whole kit and caboodle. I don't know why I said that, but the whole shebang. And there's stuff in here that's really, really deep and intense, for sure. And there's things that's probably going to be talked about that are unsettling for people still, even with tremendous faith, healing, years of sobriety. There could be some things that's a little bit triggering or set people in a pretty bad mood. But these have to be done as they are. Nothing can be edited. Nothing can be sugar-coated or watered down. So if anybody hears anything while you're watching this that really puts you in a bad state of mind that you might have to leave the broadcast, will you please at least let us know in the comments so somebody from GBR can reach out to you, maybe myself, and just talk to you a little bit and minister to you somewhat. This is important to do. I totally believe that we are to share our testimonies of what God's done for us, the lives we lived, the existences that he saved us from. I think that's part of the good news, to spread that. So we have to say it as is. But we don't want to do it at the expense of anybody, but at the same time, that could happen. So I just wanted to let people know that you might hear something that's pretty intense. And if you have to leave, let us know so we can reach out to you. Other than that, Chad Valyear is my guest on this Q&A from the book Up From the Dark. and he'll plug all the stuff and let you know where you can get this book. And I'll have the Amazon link after this is posted. And make sure you check out his band Valyear YouTube page. They're on tour. He's all over to Canada. But man, thanks once again. I'm going to pray us in and get us started, brother. Father God, I'm just really humble and very grateful for everything that that you do with these testimonies and these on the spots, Lord. And just thank you for having Chad here with us to share this incredible story in its fullness, for some people to hear that just might need to hear something from him and to get a little bit of hope so they can get over something they're still struggling with, Lord, or that they're still fighting through. I just ask that you be with Chad tonight, guide his words, calm his heart, and let his words resonate with at least one person that's going to be watching this or later on after we put it online. Thank you for pulling me through this sickness that I felt this last week. It was really horrible. I should have came to you a little bit quicker with that lesson learned. Just be with everybody's friends and family, Lord, that's going through this ice snowstorm in the south and in the northeast now without power. Please just be with them and their families. Don't let nobody have to suffer very much, Lord. Just see them through. And I just ask you to look over Chad and his family and friends up there in Canada, and just keep leading them to you, Lord, and have them be a shining example. I ask and say this prayer in your holy Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well done. Ooh, felt that one.
Yeah. I was trying to breathe through it. It was like, brother, you know this story, so I feel like I could just rip these questions off and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Game on.
Okay. I'm gonna flip back. Still weird that I do this. Like, I've never done anything like this in my life. Well, the last 2 years, this is what I've been doing. I love it.
The Lord called you for it, man, and you're good at it. That's why.
Maybe. I mean, I really enjoy it. Let me ask you this: what were some things would you say your father, Charles Edward Valyear, never received from his parents?
Well, my dad. That's funny because I changed everybody's name in that book. My dad's name wasn't Charles.
No.
So when I hear, but no, everybody's name in it is not real. And I just did that. You know what I mean? To I just played it safe, right?
I get that. But you know what I'm talking about.
Right, no, 100%. So like it just made me laugh because I forgot that like a lot of the names I forget because people will ask me questions about it and they'll be like, "Who is it?" And I'll be like, "Wait a second, tell me the story."
No, I think you actually said that somewhere in the book, if I remember, that you did change the names up.
Yeah, well,
I think you put it in there.
Was born in 1936, right? And he like what he didn't get from his parents. He was the last kid of 13. Right. Just like I'm the middle of 13. It's so bizarre how parallel our lives became. Right. But my dad, so I think by that point, like his parents were old and there was a lot less attention paid to him from what I understand. Right. And so he was just doing what he did. And like by the time he was already in trouble because he was like in the, like I said, the residential schools, he got put in there because of his behavior. Right. And so by the, I forget how old he was when he went in there, but I remember him telling me the story when he was like 13. They let him go to his mother's funeral and he was still in the suit that he went in there in, and kids grow, man. So he was wearing a suit that was too small. So I think at that point in his life, what he didn't get was probably guidance or, and back then too, like, you got to figure in 1936, like what was the world like? Right? Like you didn't, I remember him telling me one time that he was a good pool player, even as a young kid, and they wanted to make him a professional, but it was against the church because it was gambling. So his mother said no. That was, what was he learning how to play pool for at whatever age? You know what I mean? Like he was just out running around doing whatever he was doing and nobody was keeping an eye on him from what I've come to understand. So I think it just came down to being the last kid of 13 in 1936. Like it was get a job, you know what I mean? Do this because like that's what you had to do to live back then.
It was very, very black and white, like
Oh yeah,
unintended. But
yeah,
you know what I mean?
that too, man. It's true.
Guidance, though, I had to write that down. That's like the main thing you mentioned. You described his life as not being just bizarre, but the foundation of chaos.
Yeah.
Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, I think it's more, what his life was and what it brought to us, right? Like I remember my oldest sister saying to me one time, like, because we all went and got help at various times, right? Because of just what had gone on, and I remember my sister telling me one time, like he was really sick. Right. And it's like mental illness was not diagnosed back then. You were just crazy. Right. Or, you didn't get the opportunity to go and work through things. It was man up, do man stuff, and so like my father was like a very ill man, and the way he dealt with things in anger and violence, it was just, that's how you dealt with it. And we all know anger is such a secondary emotion.
Yeah.
Right? Like you learn that as soon as you start getting into any kind of counseling, therapy, psychology, any of it. So, that's how he dealt with everything, because he was just messy. And he's not the guy that would sit and talk about his feelings. You know what I mean? Like, I wish like I could have had an opportunity to speak with him today.
Yeah.
Just the man I am today and the man he was by the time he died, to be able to sit and have a conversation like this and just really, feel where he was. But like chaos was just what he knew, because that's how, I can only imagine what his head was like on the inside.
I mean, he wasn't, I guess I would have to assume this as a question. He wasn't brought up to show any emotions or display any kind of weakness. Like if, he
wasn't weak. He was
for weakness.
Yeah. He was one of the toughest guys, strongest guys I ever knew. He was like, and I'm telling you, he was a small man. Like I'd say, I can't remember how tall he was, but he was like 5'8", 5'9", but he was jacked and fight. Like the dude could throw down, man. Like he was a serious guy and charming, like so charming and like good looking, and just like he was just that and funny.
He would have made a great gangster.
But he kind of was, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what it was. He ran with serious cats,
Right. Just a couple more questions on him, because he's a very huge part of this whole story.
Yeah, man.
Obviously, in your life. What all do you want to mention about St. Vincent? I've tried to watch like the drama movie. We haven't yet, though. I thought there might have been like an actual just real documentary on it, but we might have to settle for that one. It's from the 80s, but
sure,
this is a really tough place.
Yeah, well, the thing about that movie, The Boys at St. Vincent, it was based on all those residential schools, right?
Okay.
So that movie, that's maybe why you can't find one. And to be honest with you, I don't know if there was a specific The Boys of St. Vincent, and that's why in the book I think I said reminiscent to, the schools they talk about in The Boys of St. Vincent. But those schools, when my dad told me the story, like, and every once in a while he'd pop in these little stories, right? And when he told me about eating the beans, and he would be eating the beans and nobody would eat them. So in the group home, right? Or at the residential school, he'd be eating the beans. And he said there was all these burnt flakes on them, and nobody else would eat the beans. So he would take everybody's because they didn't feed you good in there. Right. So, and then one day a guy poked him on the shoulder and just said, look at that. And my dad picked it up and he just saw the legs, he said. And the way he would do it like this. You just saw the legs. And he'd been eating that for like weeks, didn't understand why nobody else would eat it. I mean, the beatings he took in there, not to mention the sexual assaults and abuse that happened to him in there. And that was, to me, that was the catalyst, right? That the catalyst that came down to why he was abusive was that seizure of power from him as a young man. And he just was not going to let anybody do that again. Like I can remember just even as a kid, if you were not questioning him, but even if you asked a question that he thought was a ridiculous question when he was punishing you, it was like, why do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'm an idiot? Like, why are you talking to me? Like, again, we were supposed to understand what he meant. If we didn't, if we were treating him, and it comes back down to, and the more into, my, my own work that I had to do, I started understanding the layers involved in what made him very sick. Right. And I really, if there's anything about any of that I wish I could take back, was the way I felt about him for so long and the shitty things I said about him when he was alive. Right. And even when he died, I still carried that on. So I don't regret it because it is how I felt at the time. But the truth is I didn't understand him. And that's the worst part of it, because it's like, I've forgiven myself now, and I've kind of I've really forgiven him, because now I understand how sick he was.
Sure.
Right? But it was
those feelings and emotions, I mean, they're real at the time because that's what you feel, but they're not in the full context of things.
Right. And I was never taught to have a filter.
Right.
So for years and years and years, I didn't have that. So I would just say whatever, and I didn't care who I hurt, who I offended. And I remember just even a few years back, it took me even to like a few years ago. And I remember I was going off on a tangent or something on social media, and my cousin Bill, he messaged me, and something I said pertained to something that was going on with, like, not him in particular, but a whole big thing happened in my town, and I was going off about it. And he messaged me and he said, this affects me and my life and my family. He goes, your stray bullets are hurting people. Right. He didn't get mad at me. He didn't it wasn't an argument. He was just letting me know that I was cutting deep on people that didn't deserve it. Right. And it was a very powerful way to hit me, because if you tell me I've pissed you off, it's a lot less effective than if you tell me I've hurt your feelings. So if I hurt someone that I care about, it's going to affect me more than if I make you angry. Right. And especially back then. So when he did it that way, he got through to me, man. And I really started cutting that crap out. Like, I was just like, so I don't do that very much anymore.
Well, I get that. I mean, that's a better way to be. I think that's more whole.
Right.
His dysfunction, though, turned into a legacy. And it isn't just about him, but a reflection of the echoes that ripple through generations.
Right.
I love that line. And that's what you were kind of talking about earlier, was like his chaos and his dysfunction and how he became and who he was affected, generations.
Well, it affected the way I was, and it affected the way my brother was, and it affected the way my sisters were. And the sad thing is, and even, and it's another thing. See, and I always talk about how mine and his life ended up paralleling, so much, was because I just, it didn't matter how well he did or the things he tried to do. People just still saw him like that, myself included. You were just that horrible man. And he really, changed things up with his life. I mean, he was, dysfunctional in other ways, but not in the ways we were holding against him. You know what I mean? And it was like, so even myself, like, I did a lot of similar things, with my addiction. His addiction was alcohol and violence, right? Mine was alcohol and just every other thing, or drugs. That was my main one. But I mean, I didn't realize alcohol was even my problem until I, realized, why do I drink a 40-ounce bottle of rum every day myself? You know what I mean? Like, it's so unnecessary, and I just drink
normal.
So,
Yeah.
But I'm good. I'm a drug addict. I'm not an alcoholic, just for the record.
Yeah, separate that. And this will come up later, but he did accomplish sobriety.
Yeah.
So long, but
clean, man. He died clean.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big success. I mean, for him, a lot of people would have guessed that probably wouldn't have happened until it did. But also shows his tenacity and being like, I'm giving my power, my control over to this thing,
right?
Which is what was happening in a sense of him being in the boy's home. He didn't have any power or control, and that was more of a thing for him than being weakened and controlled by that alcohol. That's kind of how I took that.
Right.
But as far as it changing the dynamic of everything with the kids and relationships, not a whole lot really changed there.
Well, there's that whole thing, the dry drunk thing, right? Or like the addict who doesn't do the work, and it's like, and I don't know what work he did internally because, I never had the conversation with him. Right. But that being said, I mean, there was still a lot of behaviors. And it's like, that's the thing about recovery for me, was it wasn't just about quitting doing drugs. Like, it wasn't just drugs once the drugs were out of the way and I was still an animal, I was like, okay, man, like I didn't quit doing drugs so I could still act like this.
Right.
Right. And it's like, I don't get the luxury to just flip out on people whenever I want, or to punch somebody out, or to, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff had to go too. And you had to figure out why you were doing it. And that work is tough, man. like, cause then you realize like it always comes back to you. And no matter how messy you are, it becomes decisions you're making. Like if you're not putting space in between that, you know what I mean? Like you're just reacting. And if your whole life is a reaction, you got to expect the results. You know what I mean?
True. I mean, once you start doing that work, I'll just mention this and move on with the questions and try to keep it less conversational between us, but it's tough. But once you start doing some work and letting the work happen, actually, too, self-analyzation, self-awareness, you start thinking of yourself of these self boundaries that you have to have. I can't do this. I can't go here. I can't have that conversation. I don't want this person to always be around me. I mean, that's where I think people can see the work really happening, is when you start to be like, I'm going to set some boundaries because I don't want this. That to me was like the wheel was really starting to turn, was when you're sitting around thinking, okay, I've come a decent ways. I'm not drinking and drugging anymore. I've admitted stuff. I've dealt with some stuff. Now let's set some boundaries up so I don't, keep falling into those same pitfalls.
Right.
Because if you don't set boundaries up, they're just vital. I don't think they talk about
100%
the importance of them in recovery enough, to be honest with you. They get mentioned, but I think they're at the top.
Well, just knowing what situations don't serve you anymore.
Yeah.
And you can still love them. You just got to love them from over here.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just like, and that's what I do now. And it's like, I don't want this drama. I don't want to be involved in this. I don't want to hear what your gossip. Like, I don't want to hear. And I used to love gossip, dude. I was like,
dude, yeah. I still kind of do.
But now I don't want to know unless somebody's out there hurting children or hurting, women or do it like, I don't need to know what they're doing.
Yeah,
right?
but
and the only reason I want to know that is because I don't want to associate with people that are doing things like that, right?
True. And if there isn't anything that you can like literally hands-on do to help the situation, then it's just, why even take that in there?
Yeah.
So it's stuff. I watch too much news, but I digress. Let me ask this. God, never mind. This whole last 4 or 5 days, it was just on news, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, stay away from that. Bro.
Like Minnesota was, that's how I felt. I felt like Minneapolis in my body.
Yeah.
No, I pray for that city. If you had to, this is kind of a tough one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I mean, you said guidance earlier, but if you had to guess with one word in all your father's years, what was he looking for?
That's a good one.
I thought so.
That's a really good one.
Thanks. How similar do you think it is to what you're looking for?
I think at the end of the day, he just wanted peace. Like he just wanted to work, come home, and do his thing, man. And I think, even his later life didn't allow much peace. It's just because of the way, what he married into and like a lot of that stuff. I don't think there's a whole lot of peace. And I think, maybe near the end, I wasn't around a lot near the end. Maybe he got it. And I hope he did. Like, praise Jesus. I hope he found his way. But I mean, with that being said, I mean, and it's the same thing with me, man. Like so what I think, and I won't speak for him because he's not here, but I think when we get clean, we have to remember the ugly things we did in addiction. Right. And so for me, every time I would get clean, I would remember that. And that would be a driving force and driving me insane. Like, when you remember something you did that was really uncomfortable or embarrassing, you're like, ugh. I don't want to, and like, it won't leave your head. Right. Yeah. Well, imagine that times like a million, because the things I did were really, really crappy. And my dad did like some really horrible things as well, man. Like the stories I could like that I won't tell people that I know. It's just like, so I imagine that never settled in his brain either. Like I can't imagine, because I know even me, like, and I know you can't compare, you know what I mean? You don't compare which was worse or which wasn't, because, the life is the life, right? But that being said, like just my story, I still struggle to accept the things I've done, right? Yeah. And that's why I ask for that every day. accept the things I cannot change, encourage to change the things I can, and I think if I could guess, with my dad, I think that was a thing. I think, the peace, the want to be comfortable in his own skin. And because I know I still my showers are still hot, but not as hot as they used to be, and I used to just scald my skin to just take that sin right off it, man. Come out looking like a lobster,
I got a bonus question then, I guess.
Yeah.
Upon him passing, from all the people he had friendships with, relationships with, would you say he was respected or feared more?
By his friends, respected. By his family, feared. Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder what he wanted more. Maybe a little bit of both, but then maybe peace at the end. So it's just like,
yeah. Well, I think, and here's something that a lot of people will disagree with me on, is I think a lot of respect comes from fear, even when it's love respect. So it's like, I treat you properly because I'm afraid if I don't, you won't be my friend and I like you. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's a level of fear in every type of respect you're trying to earn. Right. If you're trying to get into anything, there's a consequence if you don't do it properly. So that, to me, with any kind of respect, there's an amount of fear that you may not get that. And we can be that guy that goes, I don't care if anybody respects me. It's like, well, I kind of do. Like, yeah. I kind of want people to, and not respect me in a way like be, like, oh, that guy's tough, or that guy's, blah, blah, blah. Like, I can remember a conversation with my son one time, and I asked him one time, like, what do people say about me? And the things that he said, like, what am I known for?
Right.
And the things he said were awful. And it's like, I don't want to be known for those things.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I used to say that a lot too. And I always heard from a lot of guys, especially, I guess, were like, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm like, that kind of just creates an out for you to live however you want to live a little bit.
It's like no consequence, no accountability.
I don't want, like, imagine if you could, like, view your own funeral and everybody came up and they were like, a piece of, you know what, he was this, he was that. I'm like, God. And he really was that. Like, I mean, the people are, going to think what they think sometimes, but I just want to just reflect decent things these days, as selfless as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but
the respect I want is somebody to go, like I want to first and foremost be known as a man of God, mm-hmm. and then a guy that will, show up when he says he's going to, and show up the way I do. You know what I mean? And then it's like, if I have an obligation, I'm willing to do it. My goal in my life is to give back to the world as much as I took from it. True. And that is a very difficult task. And I learned that the hard way when I burned out a couple months ago. I had a really big burnout, but it's like, I had to learn how to refill my cup. And I didn't know how to do that because I was just too busy going, okay, I'm not a piece of shit anymore. I'm not a piece of shit anymore. Right? And I'm going like, look at it. I can do, not for anybody's, I didn't care who was watching. It was just like, look, I'm doing it. Like, I got to do this. This guy needs help. This guy needs help. I got to go speak here. I got to go to
It's such the opposite. It's such the opposite feeling of how you always was, because you'd be out every day for yourself. And if you had to, like, lie, rob, cheat, and steal from people, I mean, you kind of would do it with a certain charm or whatever, but it was all concocted and conniving and da-da-da-da-da.
There's always an ulterior motive.
You feel like you got this selfless cape on. Now I can just go around and just sprinkle kindness on everybody.
Right.
Yeah, but you can wear yourself out like that, because then sometimes at the end of the day, people are like, you're like, everybody cares about this, right? They're like, kindness is just kind of like normal for a lot of people. They're like, oh, well, it's not for me, and that's the wall. Sometimes I think I even hit. It's just like, there's not, kindness and respect and selflessness is kind of a norm for a large group of people. It's just that I was late to the game. So I just thought that, like, everybody was, like, really realizing this. It doesn't mean that it's any less, well received. It's just you can't make it an idol. Once again, it's just you got to keep your cup filled and pour that out when I feel God wants you to. Amen. You can't be like, look, God, I'm pouring this out everywhere, and just keep expecting him to fill it. And he's like, it's supposed to be way fuller than that, but whatever. I'm gonna move on. I appreciate you talking about all that.
That's what I'm here for.
I mean, I pray your dad is in heaven, man. I hope that in his last moments he had that moment when
he believed in God, like he 100%, like there he was, he was very on the game. Like whether he had a relationship, I don't know, but I know God was a big part of his life. So
I have no idea why that question didn't come to my mind. That's a lesson learned for me right there.
Right.
I don't know how I didn't think to ask that. Well, I like to think that he is then, if he's smart enough to make this.
I in my heart believe he was afraid to die, because I think he was afraid to stand in front of the Lord. Right. And I think that was a big thing, because I know myself. So I don't want to die, because I don't feel I'm done here. But if the Lord calls me, I know I'm ready. Right. Gotcha. So I don't think I'll be sitting there afraid. I'll be sitting there going like, I wish I didn't have to go yet, but at least I know I'll see these people again, and I'll be in a better place. Whereas, my dad was afraid to die. Like he was not cool with it. Right. And I think he felt he was going to have to, well, we all do. We all have to stand in front of him. Right. Yeah. And I think that was a big fear for my dad. So I think I believe he believed in him. I don't know how deep the relationship went, but I know there was fear. And I think having fear in God is good. So, and I hope he is too, man. And I pray that he is.
I do too. And if he was really after peace, that's the place to go to get the ultimate peace, is through Christ. So, I'm going to move on and get a little darker, deeper on this. The monsters in the dark felt safer than the monsters in the living room. Yeah. I wrote the book. Take us through the ordeal of how that thought came to be.
Well, it was weird, because when I was writing that part of the book, first of all, I talked about it a lot when I first got clean, because it was part of my story. Right. And so when you put out right away that you're a sexual assault survivor, that's a lot to throw out there. Right. That's big. But what happened when I was first in recovery, and it happens to a lot of us when we're first in recovery, is we didn't have an outlet before, and I can remember something as simple as, even when I was in active addiction, being at a party and just all of a sudden just like spewing it out in the middle of a party that this happened, and not having any control over being able to do it. Right. And so when I got into recovery, I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to do this properly and use it as my story, as part of my story, my experience, strength, and hope, so that other survivors know that this doesn't have to destroy their lives anymore. Right. And then when I wrote that in the book, it was like, this is where I kind of get to, I don't want to ever say be at peace with it, because I've accepted that that's just kind of, but it was more about like, I'm putting this out here now for the whole world to hear. Right. And it's like, now I'm going to be that guy, you know what I mean? And that's just like, okay, so you're the guy that happened to, and it's like, and it becomes and it's so funny too, because when I first started getting on the podcast scene, or like when I was, doing public speaking and stuff, it was the way they would advertise the show every time, right?
Oh, it's like the main headline.
He survived sexual assault. And I'm just like, oh man, can we talk about like the other cool things about my story? And I can laugh about it now, because I get it, right? It's like, that's what brought people to the podcast. And believe it or not, like the whole point of this book and the whole point of the short film and all those things were to break strongholds. So it's like, I can't put that out there and then be like, they're just focusing on that. Well, it's like, of course they are. I put it out there, so it's like, but at the end of the day, writing it was very cathartic, and it really just kind of, I want to say finalized it. Like it really allowed me to be at peace with it. Right. And that's just kind of where I got to leave it on the paper. And now like, and other people who read it, like I've had a lot of people reach out and say like, that was brave. And it's like, I didn't feel it was brave. I felt it was my responsibility. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't want to take the significance out of somebody who's survived something like that and is sharing it. Like I don't want to take the significance out of their bravery, because, I see it as bravery as well. But for me, I just felt it was my responsibility, because, he had done this to other people and got away with it. And I only came out with it because they called one of the young lads that came forward, they called him a liar. because he was tripping up on his tongue in the court case, right? And they were so I don't know the whole logistics behind it, but they ended up catching him up in some like inconsistencies in his story, like lawyers will do. And so he ended up getting off on it. And a lot of people were calling this kid a liar, especially other people in my family, people that were like, he would never do that. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? That kid's not a liar. And this is why I know. And I just felt like I had to take some pressure off that kid. I couldn't let that man live his life being called a liar when something like that happened. And it was like, if that meant, and I didn't know what the outcome of that was going to be when I came out with it, because there's still people who don't believe it. I don't care, but there's people who don't believe it. And I'm okay with that. Right. Like, he's a big biker looking guy that ran with some bikers. He was like the patsy for the bikers. You know what I mean? He was never taken serious as a biker, but he was a little scarier to younger people, like women and children. He terrified, right? Real bikers treated him like a bitch, right?
His image is what ran everything for him,
right?
Probably.
And I mean, so with him, it just came down to, I did that as my responsibility to go like, okay, no, this happened. And then by doing that, it allowed me to show up for other people who have gone through the same thing, and not just that kid. And I've actually never even talked to that kid. You know what I mean? I've never had a conversation with him since we were little kids, since all that happened. But I came out and did my thing, and I don't even know whatever happened to this young man. But I know I still know his family, right? So because it was his stepson, right? So his family are still my cousins, but I really only have a relationship with one of them. So and we don't talk about it, right? Not for any reason. It's just not something that comes up, right?
I get it.
So I know he's alive and doing his life, but I just don't know much about, anything else. So.
I would have to think and hope that him knowing that you came out with that, almost to kind of, back him a little bit, made him feel seen and somewhat.
Somebody had to
freed him of that a little bit. Not alone. He didn't feel so alone and not believed. I don't get this thing about people saying that, like, well, so-and-so would never do that. So you're saying this person would just lie when you don't ever have anything on them that they've lied about before? Like, who would lie about some stuff like that?
Right. And it's
I'm not saying it's easier for women to have that habit too. I mean, it happens to boys. I think it's pretty equal, but throughout the history of the world. But it's like, you think a guy is gonna lie about that? I mean,
and that's the thing, like, and again, like, there were many reasons why I didn't talk about that. You know what I mean? Because like my own insecurities, the sexuality conflict that comes with all of that stuff, like, it just starts becoming a mess, and it's a mess that I wasn't ready to try to tackle.
Did you? And I think everybody understands that. I certainly do. Do you think too, though, like you were saying, like, okay, I'm going to come out with this. I'm going to talk about this for whatever multiple reasons. It's my responsibility. But like, was there a fear of it being like becoming, this is all that it's going to be about for years? Like, this is how I'm going to be known as. Like, there was nothing else to life other than people knowing you for this and believing you or not believing you.
Well, and that's the thing. And then it's like, I thought about that, and it's like, because when I think about certain bands, certain singers and bands who have come forward with that, like Corey Taylor, Jonathan Davis, like all these guys you hear throughout music, that have gone through this. And it's like, whenever I think of them, it's like that pops in my head. Right. And it's like, is that going to be the thing that defines me? It's like, no, I would much sooner be known as a guy who, who lives his life through Christ and does the things and is a role model, and, all those things that I strive to be today that aren't of my doing, so.
You mentioned the person's name, but I know it's not the real name now.
Yeah.
And there was a point where, how do I want to frame this? The question is, do you think your dad knew he was being attacked by Silas, but didn't retaliate because he wasn't sure he could beat him?
No, my dad would eat his liver. My dad would destroy
it's a tough question, because if people haven't read this yet, they're like, well, what does that mean? But
so my dad took a beating one night when he was passed out, and he passed out drunk, and this guy kicked the supreme crap out of him. And while he was sleeping and pass out. And, nobody knew who did it, but it was very heavily rumored that it was him. But until, my dad, I don't think was the guy who would just go and attack somebody on a maybe. Right. And, but my dad told me, he's like, I heard it was him. He's like, but I never really knew. But my dad also didn't know what happened to me. Right. I think my dad died not knowing that happened to me. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but I think at the time, if my dad would have known, he would have dealt with it for sure. Cause that's just how, like, again, with that whole culture, and you're talking like, street biker, all that stuff. If you're in that culture, man, bad things happen to people who hurt children.
Yeah.
So.
This is a question I think you can only answer halfway now because it comes up later on.
Sure.
What do you think ended up happening to Silas, especially after your chance encounter with him years later? Which
I actually know where he is.
Oh.
It's a really bizarre thing. He lives in a building right across the street from my church.
Yikes.
And so when I come out of church, sometimes I've seen him standing there. And I haven't seen him lately, but I remember I've seen him a few times. And I remember I was standing there, and the way my church is set up, it's my church, and then my pastor's office is the house beside it, right? And me and my pastor are super close. Like he's one of my best friends on the planet. And I remember standing there, and he's got a wicked sense of humor, right? He's like the funniest guy. And we were standing there, and I looked, and the dude came out and stood by his car, and I looked, I go, that's him. And he goes, oh yeah? He goes, let's go straighten him out. He didn't mean it, but I just started laughing. That's how he just took the edge off it, right? And he's just like, gotta look after him, right? And when, it's weird because my instinct wants to go throw him in his own trunk. But, God's not going to allow that for me today. That's for sure. Right?
Well,
maybe I'll leave God at the door if I ever have the opportunity again. It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission, right?
Oh man. I mean, there was, like I said, I was talking about the chance encounter where you did run into him years later at a place of work. I got intervened on that, I think, for the both of you. You want to talk about that real quick, or how?
It was weird because, like, I worked at a car detailing place. It was a car detailing. You have to do the quick washes in order to get the details. You know what I mean? So you have to have something to do when there's no details. So we did the car wash. So I was the manager at the place, and I still worked, right? So I was like kind of washing, and I was going over the window, and I look, and I just seen his tattoo, right? And I remember the tattoo, right? And I remember just shaking, and I was just like, I've got my opportunity. Like, I'm going to deal with this. Right. And I was only recently saved. Right. And I just remember like shaking, and it was like, I don't know what to do here. Like, and I know, like, I felt like God paralyzed me. Like, he was like, you're not going to do this today. Because in my head, I looked over and I seen a piece of rebar leaning against the thing. And my instinct was to just grab him and pound him with it until he was gurgling on the blood. And I'm talking, it was that visual in my head. I wanted him gargling and suffocating in his own blood. That's what I was hoping for, right? And I remember walking in the back, and it was just like, I broke down, like, and no meat eating man wants to admit that he went in the back and broke down. But I did, man, because it was just like, no, like you stole my youth. You're not stealing my freedom, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't get this anymore. You don't get this access to me anymore. And it took that for me to like break down and just be like, give it to God, and just be like, you need to take this from me, and I can remember leaving and calling my friend. First I called my sponsor, right? And he was in a meeting. So I went right to his machine, and that dude will answer. I've seen that guy answer every time I've called him. So I knew something was up. Right. And, so I called, if you think about recovery, there's a power of 5. If you don't know what that is, I'll tell you about it. But I called Ryan, my bro, and I said to him, I don't know what his name is in the book, but I called Ryan, and I said, I'm like, he's here, man. And Ryan knew who I was talking about. And he said, I go, what do I do? And he looked at me, or not looked at me. He said on the phone, he's like, pray for him. I'm like, pray for him? Are you kidding me right now? I want to kill this guy. Right. And he's like, I go, why would I pray for him? I want to kill him. And he's like, because he needs it more than you. And then I was just like, like, you know what I'm saying, man? It's like, yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. And it's like, you know, when Jesus comes down, who's he going to first? Right? Him. You know, and that's what's going to happen. And it's like, I have to accept that. And that, you know, and that's one of the things. For a minute, I actually resented God because he put it on my heart. He put it right on my heart. And he said, you know, and I know it's his voice because I don't think like this. And he said to me, what made him that monster? Did you ever think about that? And then it was like, wow, no, I did not. Right. And it's like, that's a horrible thing to have to think about the man who stole so much of your life, you know, as a human being, when he's a filthy animal. Right. And to this day, even as a God-fearing man, like, I don't, you know, I can't sit and love a pedophile. Like, that's just not in my DNA. Like, I don't, you know, I still in my heart want to bury them under the prison. You know what I mean? And God, I know I got to love everybody, and I will, but I can't accept that sort of stuff in somebody. You know what I mean? It's even hard for me now because of, you know, I don't know how I would deal with something like that. You know, when a man has changed his life around, and I know God can change everything. I know he can do that. I know he can take those things from people, you know, but if I were face to face with someone who I know has harmed a child to this day, even in my walk with Christ, I don't know how I could manage something like that.
It's tough. I have similar feelings for that one too. I started thinking a while back about the separation and severance of, like, the sins that are committed onto us as kids. I mean, we've all been through some stuff as kids. I think 90%. I don't know, normal childhood. I've never met anybody that had one, but it's always the sins that were put onto us, basically. It's tough to separate when you're doing forgiveness and wanting to forgive people, because you don't know what certain people have been put through themselves that now pass that on to you, and maybe 4 generations behind. Like, right. We can't. That's for God to understand. They got to separate the sin from the sinner. Like, right. And so I've always tried to mention to people, I'm like, man, you can't. It's not that you're just struggling to forgive that person. It's like the sin is you can't forgive the sin. That's up to God and that person. It's just that, and because you don't know the generations that happened of sin that happened to that person, that's kind of made it somewhat easier to be like, well, if something had to, no, I just don't think people walk around someday, they're like, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Like, obviously some other stuff's happened there. You know, we suffer for that too, the consequences of past sin. But, you know, when you ask God to, like, man, help me forgive this person, I know I'm supposed to, God will step in and be like, this person has some stuff happen to them where they chose to do what they did. Mm-hmm. You know, just forgive them and leave me the sin to deal with. Like, I can't forgive somebody's sin.
Right.
And I think people get that really still mixed up. And I'm like, you don't have to forgive. You can't forgive their sin. Just the person. Because I know you would want forgiveness. You know what I mean?
Well, like, and that's the struggle, right? Like, how can I expect forgiveness if I can't forgive? And it's just like, so I've gotten to a place where, I know, like, it's a gray area for me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, so there's a lot of things where I have, I've had to have some deep conversations with the Lord just on how I feel about, I still don't believe your way in this. Not because I don't trust them or not because I don't love them with everything in me. It's because I still have some human feelings about some things. And
I know he knows that and understands that too.
He knows my loyalties with him. He knows my heart, I
think the thing he would not want is for you to say one thing and mean something entirely different. You know what I mean?
And I'll say it with my chest, like, I would be that hypocrite.
Like, if you can't forgive somebody, like, don't go out there proclaiming it to everybody that, like, oh, I've forgiven so-and-so of my, and here you haven't. Well, then please don't make a public declaration of that.
Right.
I just say you struggle with it and you are still in conversation with God every day about it, because God knows that's where you're at.
Yeah.
This other question was floating around in my head. I'll ask it real quick. I don't know, but you said he lives across from your church or something. What if you see him at church someday? It's possible.
Well, you give me something to think about.
What's the name of your pastor?
Yeah, Pastor Frank.
What if he just like throws down the mic and starts walking out into the congregation real fast? You probably know where he's going. Chad, come on. No, I don't. I make fun, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I hope so for his soul.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's just a thought. If he runs down to the altar, I mean,
whether I love him or hate him, I hope he finds Jesus, because it's his soul that and I'm not that guy that doesn't believe, so regardless of what he's done, if he can get his seat up there, I would love for him to do that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I mean
I mean that, and I legitimately mean that. Like,
yeah, I know you do. I know you do. If that ever happens, please call me and let me know.
You might be the first one. I'll be like, ugh,
because I just
on me.
I just picture you standing there, and then all of a sudden maybe you don't even see him until the end, and you see him going up to the the altar or whatever. Man, you'd be a mess. But in a good way. I digress. Yes, so as a child, still children's aid. This was pretty deep for me. Knocked on your door a few times, but you'd actually help hide your mom's stash and paraphernalia.
Yeah.
You got the impression that them removing you from the house might actually be worse being somewhere else.
I've heard a lot of children's aid horror stories, brother. Like, I've heard a lot of them. And the thing is those are the stories you get told, right? And I was taught from the day I could open my mouth, whatever goes on in this house stays in this house, right? And if you got caught talking nonsense outside of that house, you got in trouble for that. And so I remember, like, a couple times. So the way things were set up in my house, we always lived in really small places, and things were, you were conveniently able to hide them. And I would just be like 10 and 11 years old and just hiding things behind the couch, grab stuff, putting it in my pocket, because they're not the police, so they're not going to search me for the fiber vial or the, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to do that. So it's just easier to put those things in my pockets and then say everything is wonderful. My mom doesn't do those things. My dad doesn't do those things, because there was consequences if you, and the biggest consequence would have been getting taken out of there. And it's like, what kid wants to hear that they're going to get, like, when you're a kid, you don't know that what's happening is not good. It's all you know. Right. So they're going to pull you. It's like the slaves going back to Egypt. You know what I mean? They're turning around going back because they recognize that slavery. They don't know that they don't know what freedom looks like. They, at least in the slavery, they got to eat a couple times, because you have to eat or you can't work. You get to sleep a little bit. You might get beat. You're treated like a slave, but you know what that is. So when Moses is taking them across the desert and they're turning around going back because they don't know what the other side looks like, right? Freedom, we don't know. Like, so I didn't know what anything outside of my home was different. I didn't know other families were different.
No, I relate to that. I mean, I had a very weird upbringing, I guess, now that I look back on it. I won't bring it up. I've mentioned it enough times, but it wasn't normal from right. There wasn't a ton of abuse or nothing like that. It's just that it was just an abnormal upbringing. But even still, it's just like, even if you had some bad moments and some things that you feared around the house, you got used to that in a sense. And compared to like the unknown, the fear of the unknown,
they're going to take you to this house and they're going to do weird things to you. They're going to beat you. They're not going to feed you. It's like, oh, well, I'd much sooner get beat in my own house.
Right. I mean, even so,
if I say it hurts like really fast with like the first couple, they'll stop. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen there.
The fear of the unknown, right? Like, if they took you out of that house and separated the kids, and I mean, heck, you wouldn't. Your life is entrusted to these people that are shuffling you around, and I mean, I don't think anybody, even in the worst circumstances, would want to trade that. Maybe some would, who would think, wow, this can't be normal, but
Yeah, exactly. Right.
How did things change? This is kind of a throw-in question. I didn't write this one down, but how did things change once you told your mom about the SA situation?
It was weird because there was no real conversation about it. Right. Because it wasn't like I was looking for anybody to make it right. You know what I mean? If anything, it was more like, this is why I'm a disaster. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like that was my finally going, okay, this is what started, the wrong behaviors, and the small conversations we had, they're very fast. Like, well, I didn't know, or I would have done something. And it was like, I didn't want to hold her to any responsibility for that because she didn't know. Right. And it was just like, I didn't ever want her to carry guilt for that, because in my heart, I don't believe it was her fault. Right. So, I still think there's doubt in her head, you know what I mean? Because that's her brother. Right. And I mean, people didn't know him for that, but I mean, they knew him to do things like that to women. So why wouldn't he do it to a kid? Right. A deviant's a deviant, you know what I mean? And you can't expect one end of the spectrum to the other, like, it's just like, oh, he'd only do this,
You don't get to cap your deviancy. There's like no level to it. It's like, oh, this is as bad of a person as I'm going to be.
Right. Yeah. Like, I know he can rape women.
I mean, it's like
never touch a kid. You know what I mean? It's like, it was that logic, right?
I mean, I'm not going to compare it to like drugs, but like, you start doing drugs, you're like, okay, this high is really cool. It's the only drug I'm going to do. This is the only amount I'm ever going to do. This is it.
Right.
That usually doesn't last like that.
And it's like, for me, I can even, share about drugs. Like, it was like, I was always the guy that said I was never going to do this. And then I was doing it, and I'll never do that. And then I'm doing it. So it's like, with your deviancies, like, who's to say? Right. And I'll be straight. I don't believe it was a sexual thing for that dude. I think it was a power exchange. You know what I mean? And that's all I believe. Like, so that's the psychology behind that. Like, I don't believe, I in my heart don't know that he was running around chasing children, feeding them candy. I think he had an opportunity to overpower somebody, and that's what he did.
So he had this I mean, let's assume he had an addiction to like being in control and be in power, and that usually doesn't go away on its own unless you have some kind of really deep counseling or a come to Christ moment.
That's right.
But I mean, as far as you and your mom's relationship after that, I mean, did it kind of change or stay the same, or
it stayed the same. Like, her and I are like oil and water, right? We just don't see eye to eye about much, and it's really difficult because it's like, to me, things are really, there's not a whole lot of gray areas for me, right? It's like, it's this or it's this, right? And it's like, I don't mean there's no room for error. I just mean, like, there's a time when you got to go, like, like, I don't know the words I'm looking for. And that's very rare for me, but it's like, when you're still living in a time when you think that, I don't know, man. Like, we just don't get it. And I struggle because I just feel like she doesn't get it.
I think what you're saying is, like, there's certain people, if they have a little bit of doubt and they don't fully believe, that they'll create these variations of denial along the way.
And that's what it is. And it's like, sometimes, just in conversations, and God bless her, man. Like, I really wish and hope she's doing awesome. But sometimes just the things that she'll say, and I'll just be like, ugh, like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then and I got to a point with her where I stopped arguing, and I would just ask questions instead. Like, so why did you say that? Instead of going like, F you, blah, blah, right? Why, and then it would just become, because we had that sort of relationship, right? Like, we've had it out. And now it's just it became more like, why did you say that? And then you start kind of coming at it with logic. So what you're saying is, like, what I'm hearing from you right now is this.
Yeah.
When you start putting it back in their court, then they have to own what they're saying. right? So if you're making a suggestion, you're kind of backhandedly saying something, and then somebody throws it back at you. Like, okay, so what I'm hearing is this, is that right? Oh, well, it's like, well, say it. Like,
It's them getting this.
is this what I'm hearing? Because this is what I need from you. I need you to tell me exactly what you mean by what you just said, because you're being passive aggressive and you're not owning what you want to say. And I just want to hear you say it.
Yeah.
Right? And are you going to flat out lie about this, or are you going to own it? Like, where are we going to go with this? And it's like, because to me, it's like, I went through this really big phase where I was like, if I have to own all my stuff, everybody else is owning it too, right?
Yeah.
Just like, and I was bitter when people weren't, and I had to accept that some people just aren't, man. And I just, in my heart, I feel like my mom's one of those people, like, I really do. And I know she probably doesn't think that, right? I really love
to heal from.
And I've said some really horrible things about her in the past in public and things like that, on things like this. And those are the things that I regret. But I was new in my walk, and I'm not making excuses, man. Like, I own it. And I wish I'd never said some of the things I said, but at the end of the day, I didn't lie. Like, nobody ever said you're a liar. They said it was really crappy what you did. So that being said, I just kind of, we don't have to talk about those things. And I think that was one of the last conversations I had with her. I said, I don't want to fight with you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any resentments with you. I don't want every altercation to be like this, man. I just want to come over and have a coffee sometimes.
Yeah, she still got a lot of stuff to heal from on her own, huh? Like, I mean,
and that's what it is.
She had a whole life before she had you, and the same thing kind of goes to your father. Like, there's some things she probably didn't get as a kid, and that she's still searching for. She seems like she's living very defensively low. Like, she wants to keep a distance with everything, that she conversates about and engages with you on.
And she's really great to my kids. Like, my kids love her, and she's a great grandmother to them. And just like, my sister's kids, you know what I mean? Like, she's a really good grandmother. It's just, I think I've misrepresented myself so many times in the past that I think she thinks I'm expecting something, and I'm really not. Like, it's over for me. Like, I let that go. Like, when Jesus forgave me, I had to forgive everybody else. Right. And as tough as that was, it's like, it doesn't mean any of it's okay. It just means I'm not mad anymore. Like, I get it. I know why people do what they do. Like, that's part of my job. Like, my whole job is figuring out why people are functioning the way they do. And it's like, I get it now. And it's like, nobody owes me anything anymore. Straight up. I mean that. Nobody owes me anything. This walk now is between me and God, and I'll figure the rest out as he guides me,
Like that. You ever write a song about her?
No, I have not.
Well, I'd love to sit here and challenge you to do so. I think it would be huge.
That'll be one of the next ones,
bro. Not that would like be the thing. I mean, you never know though. She hears it and she's like, you're like, who is this Trav guy? I can't stand him. No, I just think sometimes, man, because like, if you just like, I would love to just hear you don't have to do anything, but to pour out like all the emotions and the years of, with your mom and stuff, like it can be like a closure for that. But then also, if she happened to hear it later on, you never know how that could, or she might be like, why'd you write this?
Again, it can really go either way, but I'm prepared.
Very good.
I've already taken a couple of these.
Yes.
I'm good for a few more.
Bringing up stuff again.
Just do the ropey dope, like on the ropes.
I don't mean to say that. I don't mean to say it like the way you would kind of explain how she is with the passive aggressive and stuff like that. She sounds similar to how my mom was quite a bit. Sure. In the later years, just always, I don't know, that, but it's kind of what I was thinking. Just unhappy, unsettled, defensive.
Yeah.
She didn't have a lot of peace.
Right. And I pray for that in her head, man.
I felt like she held a grudge against me. So, I mean, I could say that I'm going to write a dang song about my mom. That's it. The Flinton affair.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's a good one.
take a commercial break and be right back. Now, the only way I can ask this, because it's a big section, really, but
Mhm.
I'm just going to say how I wrote it down. How scared were you that night, and what the hell happened? And let you explain what any of that
Oh,
means.
I was terrified. I was never so scared in my life. Like that's probably, well, there's been some
I
things later in
cringed
my
when I
life.
read this part, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah. So we ended up at this we walked into this party and I had a plaid shirt tied around my waist back, like the grunge thing, right? Had my boots on and whatever. I had really long hair at the time, and big earrings. I was, always a jewelry guy, in case you couldn't tell. But that being said, I walk in with this guy, and this guy I used to know, and I forget what his name is in the book. But anyway, he was older than us, and he was where I lived. It was their cousin, right? So he used to come down and party with us. We were only like 16, 17 years old, and he was like 25 or something. So he was sort of like our big brother, but like it was really weird. Like I want to say, like I don't want to say grooming in a sexual sense, but it was almost like he was grooming us to be like his gang or something. You know what I mean? It was really weird. Like he just wanted these guys to. He was trying to bring us into this little thing where we were gonna run stuff. It was a really weird thing anyway, and dropped a lot of club names and things like that. And some of the names checked out because like I grew up around a lot of those guys, so some of the names were checking out, and so I just believed what he was telling us, right? Anyway, so and we end up at this party, and I walk in, and these guys right away, as soon as we walked in, they seen the way we looked, and we all had long hair and stuff at the time, and we looked like we just walked out of a Alice in Chains video, and so we somebody, and pardon the language, but somebody called us a faggot. They said, look at these faggots coming in here, right? And we just kind of went, I just kind of let it go because I knew who the three guys were, and they weren't slouches, right? And I didn't really know what to do with it at the moment. And then this guy, I assumed that he was really, really tough, right? We were just kids. We're little kids, and these guys were grown-ass men. We're at the party we were at. And out of nowhere, buddy just jumps up and he's like, if you guys got a problem, blah, blah, blah. I go, this guy called us a faggot, right? And like just out of nowhere, that they stand up and everything's chaos for a minute. And then we get it settled. They're just like, we're good, man. We just want to party, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So now for a couple hours, we're drinking, we're having a good time, we're doing whatever. And they go, hey, there's this party down in Flinton, right? Let's go down there and hang out. They're hunting camp. There's a bunch of people there. It'd be a lot of booze, be a lot of fun. I didn't know what they were doing, right? We're all like, yeah, man, we're cool now. Let's go. And they took us down there, and there was like a lot of people there. And I walked in, and I seen a friend of mine. So I sat with her, and everybody just kind of scattered into the party. And then I looked, and I just seen the older guy, come up, and his mouth was bleeding. And I just seen these fists flying. And I was just like, oh no, like there was at least 100 people there. You know what I mean? Easily. And, I remember going, we're done, right? We're done, right? So he had this little Chevy S10 truck, tiny little truck, right? And three of us sat in the front and two of us sat in the back, right? In the cab part, like the big square in the back. Anyway, so we all go out there. We go in there. I see Buddy bleeding. I'm like, I got to get out of here, right? So I popped out my earrings. I had some earrings in because I knew this wasn't going to end well. Popped out my earrings, took off my jacket, had a really nice leather jacket on, and I gave it to the girl that I was talking to. And we had school Monday. This was Saturday night. And I said, give this to me at school on Monday. She's like, okay, man. And you could see she was afraid because she knew what was coming, because that's how they roll out there, right? That whole, I don't know what it's like now, but back then it was country boy mentality, right? And it only takes a minute to start a mob, right? So we all jump in the truck. Me and my buddy jump in the back, and those three jump in the front, and Buddy's bleeding. I see him reaching in the back, and I don't know what he's reaching for. Right. And all of a sudden they surround the truck, right? There's like so many people, and they won't let us like move. And Buddy's reaching in the back. I'm like, what is going on? Right. And he comes out, and he has a tire iron in his hand, and he just grabs the first guy, and he just goes smash. And then the second one goes squish. And just that sound, I just like, that scene in American History X when Buddy gets the curb smiley,
Yes.
And the little brother's running, and he sees that curb smiley, and he just collapses.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was just like, and that's exactly what I felt like. Like if I could describe it, it was that scene. Like, oh no. And to me, it just looked like he killed him. Right? I'm like, this guy's dead. Right? So, and I'm only 17, and I'm like, I'm going to jail. Like I'm an accessory now. Like this is how this is going to go. So we get in the car, and finally, when that guy gets hit, they just pull us out of the vehicles and they just start kicking the crap out of it. Like I'm talking, I got pulled out of that truck. I kept trying to climb to the truck. They pulled me down. And I don't know what was going on with the rest of them. I seen one guy trying to run, trying to get out of there, which, at the time I was pissed off, but like, now I get why. Like, what are you going to do? 4 of us against 100. If one of them can get out, they can go get help. Right. But anyway, I kept crawling back. And then finally, I finally get in after like 3 times. And I'm laying in the back of this cab of the truck, and some guy jumps in and just starts hammering on me again, right? I just hear all this chaos. I don't even know. Everything feels like slow motion. And it's just so much around me, and I'm just like laying there. And finally, the guy jumps in. The guy that I was with made his way in and kicked the guy off me. And then all of a sudden, I just feel the car go in to drive the truck. And he just, and everybody just scatters because now this guy's not stopping, right? And everybody scattered, they let us out. And then they got in cars and started chasing us. Right. And they were following us, and we were like, what are we going to do? Like, we live in this little secluded house out in the next town, which is called Caladair. And we lived in this little house right at the end, and there was a big driveway, and we're in the middle of nowhere. We didn't even have a phone. Like, there was cell phones back then. If we take them there, we're done. Right. So they're chasing us around. We're going up and down all the dirt roads. We're trying to lose them, but you can't lose them. And it's their home, right? They're country boy. That's what they know, that town like the back of their hand, all the back roads, dirt roads. So at one point we stop, and 2 of them get out because we're trying to figure what we're going to do here. Right. And my buddy driving says, like, what happened? And they're like, yeah, he's messed. We don't think he's going to make it. So you need to come with us because we're going to straighten this out. And I know what they meant by that. Then it wasn't good. Right. But he's like, no, we're not going anywhere. So we just kept driving, and they just chased us around. And then finally they Buddy pulls into I almost said his name, but he pulls into the driveway, and he pulls up to the back, and Buddy, they're chasing, but it was a big, long driveway. So we get up to the top, and he runs in, and we had this gun, and it was an air cartridge, but it looked real. And it looked like a real, like, I don't know the brand, like the gangster gun, like the 45, I guess. Right. It looked like one of them. And he comes running out with this air cartridge. He's pointing at the car, like, get out of the car. And they just they turn around and they run, and they're going back now to get guns coming later because they're coming back for us. Right. So I grab a machete. Buddy grabs a broom handle, cuts it in half, and he's like this. Buddy's got the air gun. Another guy's got a baseball bat. We're like sitting there all night waiting for these guys to come back because we can't go anywhere. Where are we going to go? Right. So at this point now, Buddy says to me, like, that guy's probably dead. We got to figure out we got to figure out a story here. Like, we got to get our story straight, for one, or we're all going to jail. But when they went back to get the guns to come back for us, somebody had called an ambulance. So the ambulance and the police were there already, which was good. So we're sitting there, we're all waiting. And this is, by this time, I don't know what time it is, but I wake up to a knock at the door, and I'm sitting there with, I can't remember if I had the machete or like what I had. I had a weapon of some kind, and I was sitting there, and I just remember going out, and like, I thought maybe it was them, but it was daylight, right? The sun was just coming up, and I look out the window, and the whole house is surrounded by cops. Right. So I was just like, okay, cool. We're only, nobody's killing us today. We're only going to jail. This isn't so.
Yeah, we'll take it.
We'll figure this all out. Like, I'm only accessory. I didn't know but I knew I was probably going to jail. Right. At this point now, I've helped. I feel like I've helped somebody kill somebody. And this isn't my MO. Like, I'm not that guy. Right. There's some guys that are born to do that kind of stuff. I'm not. Right. If it came to my kids or something, that's a whole other story. But just in general, like, I'm not a killer. Man, that's just not what I do. So they came in, and it was funny because that guy that I said started the whole problem, he was dropping a lot of biker names and stuff. And remember, the police officer was someone, because my dad was closely affiliated with a lot of the older guys, right, in a certain club. And I remember he knew my dad really well. And he came in, he goes, Chad, my boy, he goes, you're talking a lot of nonsense out there. I go, that wasn't me, man. You know me better than that. Right. I don't talk that stuff to anybody. And he goes, well, what's the deal with your friend? I go, you'd have to ask him because he seems to have all the answers. Right. So, but at that point we thought we had killed the guy. And I was just like, I was terrified, man. I was just like, oh, like this can't be my life at 17. Right. And it was, I'm telling you, like the amount of fear of thinking like this person is now dead. Right. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Right. I know I didn't do it, but I was right there, and I was part of the people who did it. You know what I'm saying? Like it didn't feel much different than if I had done it myself. And when I realized that he wasn't dead, I was like, that was,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and over what? Really?
Nothing. We got pumped up at a party. Some guy called me the F word, and I took it. I allowed this to go to this level because of my pride and ego at 17. Right?
Man,
that man almost died because of it, and those are those things, right? But I couldn't imagine doing something like that today.
No, he as far as he made it. He's okay. I mean, we don't know if there's like long-term.
I heard he recovered, but I don't imagine that everything would be okay. Like I imagine, I know just from people who have had, lesser head injuries, that's a lifelong thing, right?
Yeah.
I would love if I knew somebody. Like I know a lot of people in that area still. I could probably find out, but I probably should. And maybe that's why this podcast happened tonight, because I am curious how he did. I would love to let him know.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest questions in this, which I actually crossed out because I didn't think it was fair to ask about. I was basically asking. It's on here somewhere. Yeah. If you had the chance to like talk with him, would you?
Absolutely. I would actually love to do it. I wouldn't even dream of coming to him though.
I get that.
Because it's like, that would be because, I don't think I should be given the opportunity because I asked for it. I think if he ever wanted to talk to me, but see, the thing is he probably doesn't even know where in the mix I was in that, because I don't think a lot of people do. But in his mind, I know he knows who I am. I know he knows who I am. Right. And it's like, so does he know what role I played in that? Does he know who I was in that situation? That it wasn't me who had the thing, that it wasn't me who did the thing. Just, but I would still love to just make an amends to him and just say like, I'm sorry that it all got here. I would love to have that opportunity. I think it would be really great.
I think that's admirable for sure. Just to know how he's doing and how he's living, you can't fault yourself or blame yourself for your buddy. I mean, your buddy was in survival mode, grabbing that tire, and him grabbing that tire iron, doing what he did, maybe presented the opportunity for you guys that you might not be here.
Well, and not to justify our actions in any way, and I don't want to come off like I'm trying to, but if they'd have just let us go.
Yeah.
If they'd have just let us go instead of trying to beat the crap out of us. Like we were just trying to leave. That's all we wanted to do.
It's just, just a bunch of younger people drinking, having some fun, some egos got in the way, some pride. And that's 90% of how most tragic things happen over nothing. And people are still asking why years later.
Right.
Sometimes there's no rhyme to or reason to anything.
No. It was also stupid.
It's let me ask this. I got so many more. I don't want to skip none. Why doesn't reality care about defiance? And what did that mean to you at 19?
Reality didn't care about defiance. Well, because no matter what I thought or felt, the truth was the world was still going on, right? Like, when I think about the way I used to be and the way I used to think back when I was like 19 and 20 years old, like I really and it's this ego, right? Ego, self-centered. And I had no reason to have an ego, but ego isn't about thinking you're awesome, right? It's about never stopping thinking about yourself, right? And that's what it's always like for me. Like, you know, and I was the only thing I ever thought about, even though I hated myself. And I was just like, I really believed that it was my world and everybody was just taking up space in it. And I just refused to conform, to settle down. And it was like, I just took, and it was like, you know, I can remember, you know, just not even stepping up when my second child was born. Like, I refused to change diapers. I just was never going to be the guy that did that. Right. Like, I changed my son, no problem. But due to my own messy, you know, the stuff that happened to me as a kid, there was no way I was going to change my daughter's diaper, you know? And I remember just my daughter's mother at the time being like, I'm tired. Like, I can't do this by myself. And you go, well, too bad. I know lots of mothers that did it by themselves, you know, just like, just my way of thinking, man. Like, there was no telling me I was wrong, and when I hear that come out of my mouth, I'm just like disgusted by it. Like, if I heard somebody say that to me, I'd be like I'd want to knock them out. Right. Yeah. Like, I couldn't imagine, you know, somebody being like that. And I just wasn't that person. Like, or I was that person, but I'm not. Like, I'm so far removed from him. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, no matter what I did it believing like it was just going to be my way. You know, there was no other, like, you could not talk to me. There's just no way different.
Do you think that a lot of circumstances built this entitlement mindset?
Well, I definitely was in fight or flight, right? I was in that for a long time. So it was like, so there was nobody was going to tell me what to do, because, you know, I felt like there was times when I couldn't, like, the things that I couldn't do growing up were ridiculous, right? Like, you know, as abusive and crazy as my household was, there was rules, and the rules I felt were very unjust. You know what I mean? Like, when all my friends are outside playing, I got to be in the house at 7 o'clock or something, just so that, you know what I mean? Like, my mom maybe didn't have to think about it past 7, you know? I mean, I don't know what her reasoning was, but I know, like, you know, you couldn't drink a glass of milk, or, you know, not that I would today, because I think milk's gross, but, you know, I can't drink milk. But I remember being like 30 years old and asking my sister if I could have a glass. And she's like, yeah, you're not 5 anymore. You're allowed to have the milk. Right. But yeah, so like, yeah, there was a lot of things, like, you know, there was no way I was going to be controlled. And then I would just start abusing people, and not even like, it wasn't intentional abuse, but my behaviors were what, like, the way I was acting was definitely abuse, but I never seen it as abuse. I just was like, no, I'm just doing this my way. And it's like, when I could manipulate somebody into giving me what I wanted, however I had to get it, you know, and realizing that abuse wasn't just about punching somebody out. So I took a lot of pride in control. Right. Like, I always thought I didn't have it anymore. And then I realized, like, you know, I never really did. And it was like through, you know, relationship losses, that was where I really realized, like, okay, man, like, I can try to control these things forever, or I can realize that nobody wants to be controlled. And you know what I mean? So it was like, you can't control me, but I expected to control everybody else. You know what I mean? It was like fear of loss. Like, I had lost everything always. Like, my dad was gone. My mom didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like, when you start confusing love and abuse, right? Like, you got to figure, like, punishments in my house, like, there was no getting a talking to. There was, you know, hands were thrown. And it's like, so when somebody throws hands and then tells you in the next breath that they love you, how do you know the difference between abuse and love? Right? You don't. And I didn't. And I just thought, like, I could love somebody and still abuse them, you know, and because I wasn't beating them, I thought I wasn't abusing them, you know? So, but I was a very abusive man. And I don't, I'm not proud of it, but if I don't at least acknowledge it or own it, you know what I mean? I can sit and just pretend like it didn't happen, or I can go, yeah, that's what was going on. And I'm not proud of it, but it's, you know, again, it's lessons learned, and it's how I get to show up today.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's lessons learned, because reading through this book and reading, you know, about all the relationships and the journey through those. A lot of them dark, almost all of them, had their dark moments, and how they all ended. After every one, I'm thinking like, well, this is tearing these delusional layers away from him. Like, he has to start seeing that this can't keep working the same way. He has to start realizing, like, I can't keep doing the same thing and being the same way in all these relationships, expecting something to be different. Yeah. And you start out right, and then I'm like, here we go, Deb. This is it. And then it's like the next page. And then I'm like, this is just like, the scenes were like just like the scenes that you were describing, and like in the childhood, like the partying in the house, and you'd be sleeping outside the your sister's door and hiding. I'm like, it just kept repeating and kept repeating, and where you thought you had freedom in there, it was just you inviting and creating more chaos.
I was in chains, man, and I was so lost for so long. Like, I got to, I've got to have conversations with people from my past, and I've got to make amends with a lot of them. And especially when I wrote this book, like, I had to talk to everybody in that book, right? And so I've had the conversations, right? And it's, it's really cool to be able to know that every one of those relationships, I'm in a good place with all of them today.
There's
and people understand now. Well, I mean, not my my oldest kid's mother. Like, there's no love lost there on either end, right? no stories told out of school there. But I mean, I was just the louder one of that relationship, right? Like, there's people you rob a bank with, and there's people you don't. And the ones that, you wouldn't rob a bank with someone that leave a blood trail behind them, right? Well, I'm the guy that would leave a blood trail behind me. She knew how to keep everything, right? So, she did her own stuff, and she kept it very, very cool. And she maintains a very great image today, and that's good for her, right? But I mean, as far as every other relationship in that book, I have a civil relationship with all of them, and I can talk to any one of them today in a very positive manner and have a really good conversation.
I mean, I think that's rare. Like, I really wouldn't have expected that. Maybe
I didn't either. Right. But I mean,
that's a big blessing. The one ex that I was wondering about the most, you got her name in here is Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you lasted 14 years, finally leaving saved you some time to begin your own journey in sobriety and self-discovery. Could you talk about there's the highs and lows of that relationship involving Rebecca?
We got together really young.
Huh?
Sorry, I said we got together really young. Like, she was 16 and I was 18, and we just were like, she got pregnant like a couple of years into our relationship. And we just, like, to me, it was one of those relationships. Like, it was, it was like, we were just young. I thought we'd be together forever, because we had kids and things like that, but I didn't change. Right. Like, I just wasn't, I couldn't hold a job. Like, drugs and partying were so important. And, there was times when I would clean up for months or whatever. And we'd have like the sad thing about that, I'll say, like, the sad time about that relationship is the memories that her and my children carry from it are all the bad ones. Right. And it's unfortunate, because there was a lot of good times in there. Like, we went on trips and we did things. And, there was times when I would try to settle down and I would get, some time in, and I was running, a paint store, and we were making a lot of money, and everything was on the back seat. But see, I would always just throw it all away, like, as soon as it would get really good. Right. And the truth is, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know that we were ever really in love or anything like that. I think we just got together young, and we, you know what I mean? We just,
it was comfortable. You guys knew each other, and it was something that was tied to the past and stuff. I mean, 14 years, give or take, it lasted.
Yeah. But there was a lot of great, like, I remember a lot of really great things in that time. Right. And, but, you know, they're not the stories that are told. And I remember I was with a friend of mine not long ago, a girl I grew up with. She was at my sister's house. It's my sister's best friend. And I got to, you know, she said something, and she said, like, you did your things. And she goes, and a lot of that was really bad. She goes, but I hate that nobody ever talks about some of the good stuff that happened, like your trips to like Niagara Falls or your weekends here or the times you did this. And I might not have been in the planning mode of all those, and maybe they weren't my ideas, but we did those as a family. Right. And there was a lot of that gets lost in the ugly. And it's really unfortunate because, trust me, man, you don't have to remind me of the ugly. You know, there's, you know, and like I said, whether I forgive myself or I don't, those things are all still in my back pocket. Right.
Well,
like I did my things. Yeah. I did my things out loud. She did her things very quiet. Right. So when people think about our relationship, they don't see, you know, because she's become very successful, and that's really great. She's a great mother to my children. I don't have anything negative to say about her. Like she's not a person that comes into my vernacular or my brain, or I don't think about her ever. I just had to tell the story because it's part of the story. Yeah. But as far as our relationship, like, you know, she had some pretty horrible things, you know, as well. But it's like, she did it a lot quieter than I did. Right. And that's just the difference. Right. She'd be a good bank robber. Me, not so much.
You said she's very successful these days.
Yeah, she is. Maybe she did. Eh?
She doesn't know. Never mind. I'm not making that joke. Thank you, God.
Make it offline.
She doesn't own and operate daycares anywhere, right?
No, she does not.
Okay. All right. Just check that.
Check that out.
Levity. I had a little bit of levity.
That's good.
Let me ask this then. I'm gonna kind of throw these together because they're in a succession. I mean, it tells a big part of the story. Yeah. Assuming you remember these names. Mm-hmm. Do you think God brought London into your life to show you a way out?
No, I think, yeah, you know what? Maybe, because that's what ended the relationship with Rebecca. Right. London was like, I'll tell you, man, that was a trip. Like, you know, as bad as that ended, you know, that's a story, man. Like that could be a sitcom on its own. Like that relationship could be a Netflix show.
It was big. I think I actually read that whole part like twice. I'm pretty sure it was Deb, because I'm like, it was kind of an anomaly of the relationships.
Yeah.
How do I mean that? I mean, it had a lot of similarities, but it seemed like it was very out of the blue and purposeful for a specific reason. And it's like, God's like, are you seeing this for what it really is or not? It stood out to me.
And I was ready to walk away from that relationship to spend time with her. And I knew in my heart that it was not going to be a forever thing, but I knew that, you know what I mean? It was like to just have that moment where you're just so caught up in it all. Right. And it was like a, I want to say, like, as cheesy as it is, it was like a really cool romance novel. Like this person walks into your life, you know, she's beautiful. She, you know, and you're just like taken aback, and she's trying to find ways to communicate with you. And she likes you just as much as you like her. And here I am in a relationship where, you know, I just felt like the person I was with hated me, and rightly so. She probably did. And no kidding. Right. Yeah. But I can remember, when that went south, one of the last conversations I had with London, she said, don't get back together with her when I leave, when I go to treatment. And I said, why not? She goes, because you don't love her. She goes, but I know you. She goes, and I know you won't be by yourself. She's like, but none of us knew what codependency was or meant or anything back then, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're not a guy that stays by himself. She goes, and you'll go back. And I did, actually. I totally did. But the damage was so done that it was maybe another year, and like that, then it was final. Right. And, but yeah, but I never thought of it like that, but I think that's probably the best way to put it. I think she was put there for a minute because there was actually a really big spiritual thing that happened with her. I don't think I talked about it in the book, but when she went to treatment, I remember her going to a God-based treatment, right? It was a God-based treatment center, and I don't know what it was called to this day. But I remember she sent me a letter, and I got this letter, and I opened it up, and she said, like, so do you remember? Okay, well, I'll this is all going to tie in, and you're going to die when this happens. I read this letter, and it said, you know, I came to this place, and I found this counselor, and she goes, and she's really funny. She's got a really bizarre sense of humor. She doesn't put up with my crap, and I've built a really good rapport with her, and I need you to be sitting down before you turn the page over, and I tell you who it is. Right. And so I sat down. I didn't sit down, but I turned the page. And do you remember in the book when I talk about the people who introduced me to God, my music teacher? It was his wife, was her counselor. I just fell backwards. I sat down on the floor. I started crying. Right. And then I called her.
Wow.
Like I forget what her name is in the book, but I called my teacher's wife, and I was like, I go, what the F, right? Chad, she goes, I've been wanting to tell you. She goes, but I can't, right? She goes, I've been waiting for this phone call. And she goes, yeah, she kept talking about this Chad guy, she said, and it just sounded really familiar. And then I flipped to the back of her journal, and it said Chad Valyear, and it had your number on it. And she's like, I had to tell her, like, Chad is family. Like, I know Chad. Could you think I can still do my job? Are you comfortable being in this situation? And she was like, this is going to help me tremendously, you know, because, you know, yeah, it was really crazy, man. So yeah, I think that's exactly right, Travis. Thank you for pointing that out to me. I think God put her there to pull me out of that situation. That's exactly what it did.
That's how I read it. And I think, you know, like I said, I read this whole thing out to Deb too. And I'm like, are you getting there? And she kind of did. And we didn't know all the ins and outs of it, but
yeah,
you just came in out of nowhere, clicked. I mean, the people, I would hope that story alone would want people to like read the book just for that story. You guys clicked so much, and then it's just like all the things that you wasn't really feeling with, you know, the Rebecca situation, and you guys are partying, and she wasn't really into it that much, but was, and then it was like that's all you guys did. Then she's like, you know what? I'm done.
Dude, no one was more surprised than me. I was just like, what am I gonna do? Like, like that,
and it doesn't ever happen. I'm sorry, it does, but it doesn't ever happen like that when one other person is just like, oh, I'm out, love you, and don't go back to the ex, by the way. And you were just like, all right, whatever.
Do you want to know what was really one of my favorite things about that? And I say one of my favorite things because there was when she left for rehab, she said to her dad, like, I'm not leaving until you let me stop at his house and say goodbye, right? And he said, I'll be waiting outside. You got 20 minutes, right? So she came into my house at the time, and she said, my dad's downstairs, and he asked who's going to help you, because we were both in the throes of the addiction, right? And I said, no one's going to help me. No one can help me. And she's like, he said, if you want help, he'll get you help, right? And that was so powerful to me because, you know, I just took his daughter through this hell ride, you know, this addiction, you know, and this world of chaos and drug addiction. And he's putting his daughter through rehab and says, tell him if he wants help to just ask for it. And I didn't have the courage to ask him for it, but I went down and I did say thank you to him, and I shook his hand, and I don't think he was, you know, too happy about shaking my hand, but I got to give it to him. He did, right? He was a good man. Right.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that. And I think the last time I heard he had passed away, which is unfortunate. I don't like communicate with her, but we have talked, and like everything's good when we do, but I haven't talked to her in years, but when we do, everything's cool.
That's good. I just think she played a very significant role in this whole story. One of the shortest roles, but to me, it was one of those moments where I was like, this is going to be really bigger for him years later. And I think it was in a way.
Changed everything.
Yeah. it was one of those moments in the book that I was like, this is I think I even wrote some notes down about that. I'm like, this is a turning point that he don't see yet, but will.
That's awesome.
I told you I read the book.
Yeah.
This is here's I gotta read this title to this chapter. As it is, dope, a baby, and a gun to my head. Right?
Yeah. Oh my Lord.
You think someone did snitch on you for the cops to know you and be following you? Could have been a dealer.
I think it was two things. I think it was one, they had been watching me because when they pulled me over and they put the hood over my head, they go, "Does everybody in this town know you, Chad?" What I think is the guy who was running the trap house, I think because he had just gotten out of jail and he was selling dope again. Right. And I didn't care. I was just like, and in my head, I didn't know because I had never been charged up to that point. I didn't know that. Like, I just thought, oh, I've never been in trouble. I'll get off. Right. I didn't know that doesn't matter. Right. Like, I was just like, what are they going to do? I'm 30 years old. Like, what are they going to do to me? Right. And well, what I didn't know is they were trying to get jail time and all that. Well, I think they were watching the house. And the other thing too is there was a guy in there and he was in the cell beside me when we got busted, and he kept trying to talk to me, and he was at the house. Right. And I seen him there, and I know, like, I'd seen him there a few times, so I knew his name, and I always say hi to him, right? And he was in the cell beside me, and he kept trying to talk to me. That's crazy, eh, man? Like, can you believe that happened? What did they get you with, And I'm just going like, dude, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Like, we're done talking. Don't say anything else, right? And he was in there, man, I feel so bad. And I go, why do you feel bad, right? And then I got my, what do you call it? The
paper?
The name of it. Disclosure. I got my disclosure.
Okay.
And then it tells you what, like, the event. And he got caught with a bunch of dope, and he walked out. He left. Right. And it was just so I think so. Sorry. There was three things that led to that. I think he was snitching on his buddy. The house was being watched, and I was also being watched because they knew everything. And like, even when they were pulling over, I forget what my other baby mother's name is in the book, Maya.
Yeah.
She, when they would pull her over, they would go, "How's Chad doing?" You know what I mean? Like, things like that. Right. So they'd been watching me for a minute.
I mean, you were setting that up though, in case you guys did get pulled over to take all the charges.
Always. That's what a man does in that, in that situation.
But
right?
Unbeknownst to you, Maya had something on herself.
Yeah. Right.
So.
And that's the thing. Right. So I just always made that deal, and it was just like, somebody has to raise the babies. Right.
And I mean, the cops are kind of like making it sound like that was going to be the case and everything like that, but they still, I think they arrested her too, if I read it right.
They let her go on her own reconnaissance because she only had, I think she only had a gram and some pills on her, but they wanted more for the pills. They always wanted more for the pills down here, right? The oxys, because that's huge. And put it this way though, but I had a lot more on me than I got charged with. So that was actually a blessing too. But
yeah, man. I mean, you would think for a casual reader who doesn't know much about addiction, getting arrested like that, guns drawn, baby crying in the back seat, in the car seat, that taken down to the station, getting charged finally, that might be enough to not for Chad.
No.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin it, but
we're a third of the way through at that point.
Here's a question. This is a personal question.
Sure.
Because I'm reading it and it says in there, I'm paraphrasing some of this just so you know what I'm saying. You were getting a purchase and you were collecting money from a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But you never even used the money to get the purchase. You got it on a front. So what's the consequences with all these people that you owe money to?
Nothing. I want to, you know what I mean? They would, what am I going to do? Like,
well, I just thought this is going to be slimy, but I'm going to say it anyway.
No, I was a piece of trash, man. Like, it's like, do something about it then. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and there's out of all of that, like I can remember even like I would, you know, I have a guy that, you know, when I see him today, I still have a friendship with him, but not like we don't hang out or anything because our lives are just so different. But, you know, he was a guy that I actually owed a lot of money to. And but, you know, my house had gotten broken into, like money got stolen, dope got stolen, my guitars got stolen. Like there were so many things that happened. And when that happened, you know, I just told him the truth, right? I was like, this is what happened, man. Like, and I don't have it. And I don't know when I'm going to have it, if I'm ever going to have it. Right. And it's just like, so if you got to deal with it, deal with it. Like, I get it. But I'm just telling you, like, I'm just never going to have an extra few $1,000s kicking around. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not a thing. So let me know what you're going to do. And he's like, you know, he wasn't happy about it, but at the end of the day, he said, it's only money. Like, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to kill you for it? You know what I mean? I mean, I know people that have died for a lot less. So I got to give the guy a lot of credit because he's got some heart. But, you know, he's just like, you know, but yeah, but he was very cool about it.
Very gracious.
I'll never be able to pay that back, like what I've owed. So it's like, you know, I don't know what there's just, it's not a thing.
You can give them a VIP pass to the next Valyear show. Maybe a hoodie
for the next 15 years.
After Maya went to treatment, lost custody of Trinity.
Yeah,
the drug use escalated. Am I pronouncing that right? Increased. Let's just say that. You jumped into another relationship. Is it safe to say at this point that one of your biggest fears was just being alone?
Yep. You know, an addict by himself is in really shitty company. So, and I'm codependent, right? Like, I'm not anymore, but I was very codependent. Like, but I didn't know what that meant. I thought, like, I knew I could get by on my own. I knew I could survive on my own, but I didn't know what codependency was. Right. So it was like, I always had to be in a relationship, or I always had to be surrounded by people. Right. Yeah. And it's like, I didn't understand the freedom of not having to answer to anyone and how freeing that is. Right. Like, you know, I don't want to have to explain myself to anybody, you know, but at the time I would have paid money to do that. And I did, you know what I mean? Like, I paid with my heart, I paid with my soul, but I just can't, I couldn't wrap my head around the thought of being by myself. But it was like, also my self-esteem was so bad that if somebody liked me and I found them attractive, then I better latch onto that and hang on and hang on till it bleeds, man. Cause it was just like, first of all, how can you like me? You know what I mean? And secondly, like, you know, you do, well then, you're not going anywhere, man. Like, you're staying right here.
I get that. I mean, misery loves company, but it hates company of itself.
Well, the thing is every emotion loves company if you think about it, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's funny because I used to think totally like that. And it's like, somebody said that to me one time. They're like, every emotion loves company. Yeah. You're only focusing on the misery.
Well, even fear. Like, if you're going to fear, if you're going to fear something, you might as well have somebody else to like share the fear with.
Yeah, and you're less of a degenerate if you're being a degenerate with someone else. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
It's just like it's not so bad. This guy's bad too, right?
Well, it's kind of like weird reverse validation, because if you're like, oh, this person, this girl likes me, okay, cool. That she's got to be more messed up than I am, then. So come on in.
Exactly. Like, what part of you is looking at me like a good idea? Come on, man.
Thank you.
How are you?
Let me see. I'm going to skip that. All right, this is going a little bit down this is a tough one, but let me just ask this one.
Sure.
You can explain the names and the people involved. Where do you think Declan's strength comes from, or particularly during the time when he lost his daughter?
Mm-hmm. He's you know, I think he's a guy that and we don't talk about his feelings towards me or anything like that. It's not a conversation we have, you know, but I think his strength comes from watching me fail and vowing to himself to not be that failure. right? And I won't speak for him, but that is just what I would, what
Doing
I,
the exact opposite.
you know what I mean? And he does that. And I watch him show up like, his son, Tyson, you know, his son is not, it's not his biological son. And he's not in that relationship anymore, but he stands up as that boy's dad, and that boy will be my grandson for the rest of his life. Right. Like, we don't believe in half step, none of that stuff. Right. Like, but I watch the way he stands up for that young man, and I go like, and I'm really proud of him for being able to do that, because, and I think he does things like that to, you know, one, it's the right thing to do. Right. And he's a, you know, he's got integrity. He's a good man. Right. And I think also it's, you know, he's a better man than I am in those situations. And I think, you know, if anything that, you know, and again, I don't want to take credit for it because it's not a good thing. Right. But I think me being bad at doing my job, you know, allowed him to be better at it. Right.
Yeah.
And his strength when his daughter died, like, you know, I don't know where he pulled that from, my friend. I wish I had a really great answer.
Yeah, and I'm glad you didn't.
The man's a soldier. Yeah.
I'm glad that you didn't like overly try to figure it out just for the sake of the book. You know what I mean? Like, because we're both thinking that we're like, wow. I mean, and just for one example, I mean, it's very unfortunate and sad. You guys are working together. You were stringing along some sober time once again, or at least not so much the dope.
Yeah.
But for a shining example was of this was the funeral and everything like that goes on, and you and Declan are together, and you're like, oh, let's have a shot, you know.
Yeah, I had a 60-pounder in the car.
He's like, nah, you know, I got to work tomorrow. It's okay, Dad. And I just cringed in that moment because I'm just thinking like, this is just Chad being authentically who he is in that time, in that moment. And that's also who Declan was in the exact opposite way. And it was so powerful. Because the dad's, you know, trying to be like, oh, you know, son, here you go, we'll do a shot in memory. And he's like, nah, it's all right.
Yeah. Good. And that was a defining moment for me too, because it's like, even in that moment, it was just like, oh, you know, and it was like, but, you know, I watched him soldier through it, and I watched him go and eat some food and go to work the next day. And I took like 3 days off. Like, I was like, I'm not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I was totally not trying to make it about me. Like, this was not about me, but I was heartbroken, man. Right. Like, my heart ached. Like, I sobbed for days, you know, and I can only imagine what that man went through. And I'm going like, if I feel like this, how does this guy feel? Right. And I just, to this day, where he pulled that strength from, man, like, if anything, you know, like I admire him in so many ways for being able to get through that, you know, and doing it with such strength. Like, I've never seen that in anybody else in my life. Right. And it's like, he doesn't realize what he gave me that day, you know?
And that's just who he was. He wasn't really, I don't think he was putting on a front or trying to just.
No, not at all. And even now, like the kid works his ass off. Like, he's a soldier, man. He gets up, you know, he's out in a different province than I am now. And I have a relationship with him, which is cool. You know, I can call him whenever I want, or we talk and whatever. And you know, he's out there slugging concrete and doing his thing. And he's he's in a new relationship, and she has a couple little girls, and you know, he's doing the things, man. And I just look and go like, you know, I really admire who he is. I admire his work ethic, you know, and I think like, you know, one day I hope he gives himself a break.
Man, see, it sounds like a very admirable young man, and I'm glad he's doing well. That could have been that moment could have sent him in a completely different direction, and nobody would have been able to blame him for it.
No, and that's the thing, and that's why, like, you know, and I don't know, like, I won't speak for him, right? But I imagine there are times when he's not doing so good about it. And it's like, you know, it's been, you know, it came up in my feed the other day, like, she'd be 10 years old. Right.
Oh, man.
Like, you know, I often wonder who she would have been, you know? So it's like, if I sit and have those thoughts and memories, what does he have? You know what I mean? And I don't push for that. Like if he ever wants to talk, but he knows he can come to me with anything. And that's the one thing we have. Like whether we see eye to eye all the time or we don't see eye to eye all the time, he knows that if he needed something, he could come to me. Right. And, he's, I can only imagine what goes on in that boy's head.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big part for me.
I read that the other day just because somebody had the book, and I was going to, I can't remember why I had, but anyway, like, cause I don't even think I have a copy of it because I know the story. I don't need it. Right. I may keep one just to have it, but I don't keep my own stuff. I don't have any Valyear stuff either. It's so weird. But anyway, but I read that chapter. And I can remember just tearing up again, reading it like it happened yesterday. And it's like, it's so weird, man, because it's just like, I watched that little girl bring so many people in a room together that would have never been there, and it's like, to have that strength at 6 months old, to just be able to bring all these people together, man. And it's like, it's overwhelming. Right. And it's like, I just wonder who she would have been,
You can be mad at me all you want, but she deserves a song too, I think, and you can still make it heavy as hell.
Yeah, she gets one.
Yeah,
I kind of felt that one too, brother.
So, this is kind of a weird transition, but I'm keeping kind of with the flow, I think.
Yeah, you are.
I'm skipping a couple things, but I'm going to come back to them. This Night with Amber. Bringing up Amber's name, that's a pretty big name in this book.
Yeah.
After 4 years, you feel you invited the devil back in.
Oh,
you know what I mean by that? Okay, I was wondering. I'm like, is he going to know what I mean by that?
Yeah. You came out with a vengeance.
Yeah, I mean, so like the second question, I don't know why I didn't put these together. The gift of desperation, 2-year spiral. You and Amber had built a lot. Destroyed because of an illusion of control and one wrong selfish choice. Can you just talk about that situation? Man, I wish everybody would get this book that's watching this, because I don't think I'm even doing justice of like painting the picture of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But
we had been together at this point. We were married, and I remember like we were still drinking and not telling people we were drinking. But we kept drugs. Like drugs were not on the table. It was not an option. And as far as I knew anyway, and like I said, I was working and a car pulled out and I looked down and there was an 8-ball. And I was just like, what? Like I never would have found that an active addiction. Right. And to me, that was the enemy. How strong are you? Right. I believe in my heart, the enemy put that there. And, I picked it up. And I opened it up and I went and I just did the taste test, and my tongue went numb, and I was just like, oh, this is good. This is good. Right. And I started shaking. And I remember calling her and I go, you're not going to believe what just happened. And she's like, what? I go, I just found this. And she said, she goes, flush it. And I'm like, I can't. I go, we can probably do it once. We can just do it once and we'll be fine. And she said, I don't think you should bring that home. And as soon as I brought it home, though, it was game on, right? Like she was cool with it. But it was like the first line we did, I knew it was over. I felt it in my heart. I was just like, I watched everything change. I watched her face change. I watched her eyes change. I watched my whole life just in one sniff.
Was that different than any other line you done? I mean, I know it's been a while, so that's always a little bit different. Yeah. But usually they say you pick up right where you left off.
I have never seen evil. I had never seen evil, brother. And it was just like, I mean, I'd seen evil in other ways, but I'd never seen it in somebody. And it was just like, I watched it change her.
Well, they say evil can attach itself to not just people, but objects. Yeah. I truly believe they call spirits. Why? Yeah. I mean, I do think it's in coke and fentanyl and crack, and I think I just believe.
Well, I also think on top of that, I believe you, and I agree with that. But I also think it opens doors, right? And as soon as it opens a door, and I said, and as soon as I saw that evil, and it never, and here's the power of addiction, right? Power of addiction didn't let me turn that off. It didn't let me walk away from that and go. And I mean, I tried, like, I was just like, but I didn't have the emotional strength, and I'm codependent. So when I said, you know, after that day, we got like, of course, you're not going to bed with any dope. So whether like, and from the minute we did it, it was not fun, right? It was not fun at all. And so the next day I came home from work, I hadn't slept. I still went to work, you know, and I came home that night, and I said, we can never do that again. Because like, and how do you explain to someone, like, at this point, I don't even have a relationship with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I know I believe in God. Like, I know he exists, but I don't have any relationship with him. And how do you look and go, I just saw the evil that I didn't never want to see again because it terrified me, you know? And it's like, but I couldn't say that because I didn't know, first of all, how it would be received. And secondly, did I even believe what I thought I saw? Right. Because I didn't understand it. Right. But I remember saying that, and she said, okay. And then it was only like a few days later, we were back into another bag. And then it was just like, I remember about a month later looking at her as I've got the plate, I'm chopping it up, and I go, you know, we're back in active use. Right. And she's like, don't say that. And I'm like, we are, because we're doing it every day. And I was getting paid cash every day at my job. So I just have cash every day. If I blew my life up, I was good for the next day.
How convenient.
It worked out great. So I mean, the enemy was playing me in so many ways at that point. It was like,
well, you were still, I mean, in a weird, I wouldn't say delusional way, but if you guys were still drinking, I mean, the addiction was still active. It was just lower down. And one of the, this is just something I'm remembering, because this is what, and I believed you when you said that scene about like her face change, and like you felt like this was something different. I knew evil got in, and what really solidified that for me was where you talk about you and her were just doing this stuff, doing lines, watching the movie Requiem for a Dream.
That was me in London.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want. Well, I just want to finish my. Well, then let me say this on that. Then my bad. That's my fault. But that is, I remember seeing that movie probably when I was in my early, maybe mid-20s or something. Yeah. Dude, I cannot watch that. And that's before I didn't know anything about anything. That movie is so horrible to watch. Yeah. And I can't just imagine people just doing lines watching that. To me, I'm like, that's just sickness, watching sickness, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, bro.
I don't want to have to like explain the movie. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. But if there's anybody out there who's thinking like, drugs ain't that bad, it's kind of glamorous somehow. If you watch Requiem for a Dream, you will see that there's not a shred of glamorizing drug use period in that movie. It's not based on a true story, but
I'm telling you, man, other than losing my arm, I was living that life. It was crazy, man.
And it's just, I think, all right, full disclosure. So me and the wife were like, she don't, I said she don't remember if she'd ever seen it or something. I'm like, I don't know. So we try to like put it on, and then like within like 20 minutes, I'm not even watching it. I'm just doing something else. And she finally shuts it off. I'm like, good, because I didn't want to see it. It's just, it's so cringy. So I couldn't imagine this like doing coke or whatever watching that. But
no, but and we were doing that, right? Like, like even me in London, like I just remember watching that and like just being like did I sell the rights? Like, is somebody watching us right now? Because we were
we're similar to the characters you said.
Just crazy about each other and the way they talk to each other, like Jared Leto and whatever the girl's name is. And you know what I mean? Like it was crazy, man. And I just remember when it was over, we were both just kind of like, did you watch that? Like, did you see that?
I mean, even one of the roughest scenes for me is early on when he's like, his mom's locked behind a door and he is trying to steal her TV to go pawn it, and it's on some chain, and he's got to get the key from her to unlock it so he can go pawn the TV. I'm like, that's just enough for me right there. But anyway, this is not plugging a movie. I don't recommend anybody watching that. If you watch it and don't like it, please don't email me or message me about it. But and I knew that. It just made me think of that. I don't know why it was with her. Well, there were so many relationships in this book, Chad. So where am I at? Yeah, we're getting close to the end. It's not getting any lighter yet. we're still down in the dark, brother.
Yeah.
But the meth chapter. Let's get into this one. That whole scene goes back to the atmosphere, nightly party at your house growing up. This is when you were thinking of you're like back on your own, living in a real slum part of town, and you get some guys, and the scene's just like back in your growing up, and you're thinking about starting a motorcycle club.
Well, it wasn't a motorcycle club. It was just because none of us had motorcycles.
Well, right.
But we were just starting like kind of this like little crew, and we were going to run dope and whatever. Right. But one of the fellows showed up and had a talk and said that's not going to be a thing. And we gladly said, okay, thanks for the visit. And that's what happened, right. And so the arrogance of us at that point, like thought, you're going to start, there was already 2 or 3 of those groups already. It's like, what were we going to do? Go take over? You know what I mean? Like but we just didn't want to pay for dope. Right. Like we were just at that point. But yeah, it was pretty, when I think about that now, I have my younger sister, she makes fun of me sometimes because she remembers what the name of it was. Well, I'll never tell because it's stupid, but she'll no, I can't, but she'll go, hey man, you prospecting for this?
Like, the Dirty Rascals or something.
Yeah, it was weak, man. It was
okay.
So I'll tell you offline.
All right, I'll get it. I really wanted it. Deb wanted to know too. We were guessing like all night.
Hell yeah.
All right, so this is interesting to me. Walking down the street with one of your buddies years later, see a girl coming the other way. This is about seeing past masks, faces that change, vibes that shift. Tell us about all that. Maybe the humanity trapped inside the outer hell.
So what I realized from a very young age, again, I didn't know what it was until I started walking with the Lord, right? Is it's like I can see faces change, right? And it's when it would happen, sometimes it happens for the better and sometimes it happens for the worse, right? I can see something really mangled become something really beautiful. And it's almost like, I want to say it's almost like I see their pure soul, right? And whether that's good or bad, right? And I realized later that the tighter my walk got, was that's a gift, right? And I don't share that with a lot of people. I mean, I guess I'm sharing it with everybody now, but I don't share it with a lot of people because if you don't get it, you just sound like a crazy person, right? And I'm telling you, when that happened, the very first time, I was just little, man. I was just like, and it happened with my little sister. Her face just went pretty, like, not that she's ugly. You know what I mean? Like it was a different kind of beauty, you know what I mean? And it was like, so I seen her soul and it was like, so yeah. And I see the opposite when I see like, an addict out there, doing the Fetty fold, and all of a sudden they look up. Sometimes I can see, it changes into this really pretty face or this really handsome face. And I'm like, wow. See you in there. Right. And it's like really crazy when that happens, because now I get it. But when I was younger, I thought I was nuts. And a lot of times I would just disregard it. Like, I don't want any part of this. Like, I didn't know what it was. And I used to ask for gifts, not even knowing I was asking for gifts. Right. Like, let me see what's really happening here. I didn't even know who I was talking to. Like, I would say God, but I didn't know who I was talking to, and then they would let me see inside. And it was like the situation, and I would understand it. Yeah, that's right. It is, Deb, spiritual discernment, but I didn't know what it was. Right. And so with that being said, now it's like, sometimes like I thought about asking him to take it because it got to a point where I don't want to see it anymore.
I get that.
And then it was like, no, I need to see this, because it's like, sometimes I see it right in my church. Like I know sometimes who's there, for an assignment from the other side. Right. And when that happens, it's like, I got people who see the change in my demeanor and they'll call me out on it. Right. And it's like, they'll say, okay, what's going on? Right. And it's like, I'll tell you after. Right. And they'll say, yeah, that person.
Yeah, that's a big time, man. I could,
yeah.
All of a sudden, like it came over me, like that's a big topic to talk about someday.
Yeah, we can do a whole show on it, man.
I'd love to. I believe I have certain levels of discernment. I don't know how to like classify them or whatever, but you're talking about something deeper than just like facial expressions. Like if I'm looking like this, like you can tell I'm like annoyed or irritated. You're talking like,
no, I'm talking like
surface type of stuff, like that innocence, that purity, that child of God is there.
Yeah,
that
or the vice versa,
or vice versa. Yeah. How many times do you think you saw that in yourself, or did you avoid mirrors?
Yeah, not a lot, but it's like other people have seen it in me, and it's like I can remember somebody telling me when I get to a certain point with alcohol, my face changes. And I'm not talking like just like a weird look. It's like I'm a different person.
I've heard that said to me.
Yeah. And I remember the first time I knew this kind of stuff to be true, I can remember going into Owen. I think his name's Owen in the book. My teacher and his wife, I went into their house one time, and when I left, they blessed their house because I brought so much with me. Right. They said, take whatever he brought in and get rid of that. And then they prayed on me. And like, then I was like, fine, like I could have a normal conversation with them. Right. But there's, a lot of stuff, man, especially with that whole, the fruits and the gifts and all that stuff, man. Like when I started realizing I had gifts, because the hardest part for me about having gifts is trying to accept the fact that I'm worthy of them.
Mm.
Why am I so special? But why am I not? Like he loves me, doesn't he? So why can't I have them? Right. And why don't I just say thank you instead of questioning it?
Well, yeah, that's still a big problem I hear from people I talk to on a daily basis, sometimes even of like them bringing up this unworthy and undeserving type of thing. And I think they get that really confused with some of the stuff in the Bible. I'm like, well, what part of Christ died for everyone don't you understand? If he died for you, took all your sins and paid your debt. I don't want to speak for God, but to me that sounds like that's because we're all equal in his eyes. His unconditional love is for everybody, and that sacrifice was made for everyone. So you have to be worthy and deserving of that. Now, whether you choose to become an adopted son or daughter of God is up to you.
Right.
But he's given that chance to everybody.
Yeah.
And people are still like, I love Christ and I got a relationship with him and all this, but I just don't feel worthy or deserve. I'm like, well, that's a lie of the enemy that every time you speak that, you're giving power to it.
That's right. And that's I had to learn not to put words on people and not to put words on situations. Right. Like when I would talk about certain people and I would say, yeah, they're a nightmare, and I'm going like, and then somebody said, no, you say we're praying for them.
Yeah.
You're putting these words on them. And I'm going like, oh, and I put words on myself all the time. Like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. It's like, I don't say things like that anymore. I go, if God's willing. Right.
Right. Well, I try to do that.
Right.
We either speak ourselves to the grave or speak ourselves to something better than that. I mean, speaking death or life over your life is so critical. So
why not believe in the lie that serves you, right? Believe in the lie that serves you. If you're going to believe in a lie, I believe in one that doesn't work. Like
that's a big point.
You'll never accomplish something. Believe that you will own the yacht. If they're both nonsense, believe in the one that feels better.
That's what I try to say to people that are non-believers and try to I'm like, what do you got to lose? Well, like you play the slots, you're losing money. Like it's not a guarantee win. Every time you drive on the interstate, you're taking a chance. So like you might as well like at least talk yourself into having some faith just in case it works out that there is a heaven and hell. Like I'd rather hedge my bets there, but I know it's not what it's all about, but some people just refuse to believe because they just don't think it makes any sense. I'm like, well, how does it make sense to talk pessimistic over your life for your entire life? Right. I don't understand it. Like a life just lived for yourself is a pretty lonely life.
Exactly.
I didn't write it. I'm glad you brought them up because I don't know how I didn't write any questions down. I might have circled it in the book or something, but talk because I got a few left. Yeah, I knew this would go close to 3 hours. It's all right. It's like a Sean Ryan podcast. Who's quickly becoming my favorite interviewer. Even over Tucker Carlson. So you know who Sean Ryan is?
I love Sean Ryan.
Thank you. Thank goodness. You know why he's so good at what he does? I know I'm going off whatever. I watched like an interview of him by Tucker Carlson. I love Tucker Carlson. You can't talk bad about Tucker Carlson. I'm always going to be a Tucker Carlson fan. But he was interviewing Sean Ryan, and Sean Ryan is so authentic. He's like, I don't want to like interview all these people that everybody else has interviewed. I want to talk to people who I think are very interesting, that have unique stories, and would just be a great conversation for people to hear. And it's true. 90% of the people I see on his YouTube channel I've never heard of in my life. He's had Lee Strobel on there, the Case for Christ guy and stuff like that. But the rest of them are just have unique occupations and certain things in life that they come on and share. And I just dig that. And I'm like, that's why I have the ultimate respect. He don't put people on just to get numbers for his channel. He's turned down a ton of people for that. Sure. And I'm like, that's very cool, humbling, and unique. And he's still successful for it. So he's got all the respect for me in the world. Your spiritual advisors, Owen, and I can't remember his wife's name.
I forget what her name is in the book. But
I can't remember it.
Yeah. My people.
But that's it. Yeah. You said that you were so strung out and messed up, and you went to their house one day, and they kept letting you in without any fear. You get in their house, they set you down, they pray over you, and you're like sobered up.
I'm telling you, man.
I mean, that's
it was even before the prayer. I walked in their house, and I was on a 3-day run, and I walked in. So I had to put a cough drop in my mouth because like my throat's messy, but we'll get through it. I promise.
Yeah.
I walked in their house, and it was all of a sudden, it was just like, boom, sober. Like I never took a drink, done a line, done anything. And they brought me in their house. They're like, hey, we got someone for you to meet. And they brought out their baby boy and put him in my arms. That's how sure they were I was sober. Right. And I remember just, and the big joke, because I remember just looking at this baby, and I think I'm like 18 or something. And I'm like, I could fit his foot. I bet you I could fit his foot right in my mouth. I put it in my mouth. And they still tell that story because I think it's hilarious. But I'm telling you, man, like those people, I'm telling you, like they're still my people. Like they're still my my go-tos. You know what I mean?
You still talk to them today?
All the time. Like when I'm really in a spiritual crisis, it's like I call them, but not only just a spiritual crisis, like if I just sometimes need to hear their voice. Like I love them so much as people, and they were the first people and not the only people later on in my life. So I want to be very clear, but they were the very first people to love me unconditionally.
Yeah.
From the time I was 15 years old when they met me, no matter what I was doing. And there was times they distanced themselves from me because they knew like I wasn't walking a path they could kind of, and I understood that. Right. And at the time, maybe not, but I know like with them, they could do anything. And I know their motive was pure. So it's like, whether I liked it or I didn't, I was cool with it. You know what I mean?
Didn't that like kind of build some curiosity in you as well? Because you're like, doing all this living and party life and doing bands and stuff and shows and drugs and this and that and the other. And these people are just seem like they got it all together. They're happier than heck. Their bills are paid. And you're like, how are they getting that?
I'm like, I don't get it. But it was so funny because I remember at one point thinking about the people in my life that have really given it up to God. Right. And I remember just being like, they are all living pretty great lives, and I'm not saying like they just cruise through life because they're Christian. I'm just saying like, no matter what struggle they seem to go through, they seem to be able to get through it with grace, and I remember just thinking like, and my thing was, one day, right? One day I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to totally turn it over. And, you know, I'm not quite ready to be one of those Bible thumpers. Now it's like, I'm that guy. Like, I'm that guy that people sometimes probably don't want to engage with because they know it's going to end up here somewhere. Right? But it's like, I guess what they don't realize too is like, you know, is that just because I follow the Lord doesn't mean that I'm different in a lot of ways, but not in the ways they think I'm going to be. Like if somebody's completely not interested in Jesus Christ, that's cool. Like for me, it doesn't affect me. I would hope that, you know, they figure it out later, but I'm not going to not be your friend because you don't feel or think the same way I do.
Yeah.
I can pray for you and hope one day you want to have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you still, I wouldn't say an obligation, but you can't turn away from people that just aren't into what you're into now when you used to hang with the worst of the worst. I mean, you still have a chance to live by example for them to be like, okay, what is this? What is this God thing you got going on? And they see you living so consistently, then I think that just builds a curiosity for people.
Well, if people, you know, when people see me today and like, you know, they got to see the Holy Spirit. Like they have to. They're like, there's just no way you could look at me today and know that or think that I'm the same person. And I got people that'll try to pull me back. Oh, I know who you really are. And it's like, no, you don't. You know who I really was. And that's cool. Right. And I really was that guy. So you can hang on to that if that's what you want. But you know, today, like just look at my life. Like I have daily struggles like anybody else. But like, you know, I don't have any complaints. Like my life is pretty good. And even when it's bad, you know, again, it's back to, I can get through this. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be fine. Like there is a purpose to it now. I don't know what that is and what his plan is and what my assignment is from time to time. But I know if I'm suffering or if I'm going through something, he's refining me for something. Right. And I understand that today. It's not just, oh, F my life. You know, it always happens to me, or, you know, like, of course this happened to me. Why wouldn't it? You know, like I'm not that guy, man. It's like, okay, so that's, you know, in my prayer, I will say, what is your assignment? What is your purpose? Why are you doing this right now? Please tell me so I can appreciate it a little more.
I mean, you look at things as I try to, I don't do it right every day for sure. I was horrible. I'm going to bring that up. I'll talk to you about that sometime after we get this done. It was a rough time when I was sick those 4 days. Like, I don't know. I think I might have told you some about it, but it was bad mentally. It was just as much as physically. But nowadays, it's not so much punishment. Oh, why is this happening? It's you kind of know it's preparation for something that's coming. That you'll get through it if you just stay the course. And God is the course. You know what I mean? And it's things are still going to happen that you don't think should happen,
right?
But you can accept it a little bit easier now because you're like, well, I made it through all this other really horrible stuff. So this, you know, this is just something else that, you know, there'll be a silver lining to eventually. You just get through it the best you can. Right. And hopefully, you know, God will put some people in your path that'll be there to help you with that.
Right.
And that's like the biggest comfort, I think, is that we don't have to do none of this stuff alone. And all the people that want to like pull you back, there are those because they know who you are. Well, they want to pull you back because they don't want to be where they're at anymore. Right. And misery loves company.
Well, when you take the road less traveled, people don't want you to, some people don't want you to succeed, because then it shows that maybe they didn't make the right choice. Right. And it's like, so, you know, I don't want what you have, you know what I mean? And so I'm not going to take the same path you took.
True.
Right. So I'm going to take the path that I feel I'm being called to take because I want this. And maybe this doesn't look like something you want. And that's okay. You know, like I don't make a ton of money, but I'm out there playing shows all the time. I'm doing the music. Why? Because I feel compelled to do it. I feel like it's what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Does it mean that I'm going to do it forever? I don't know. That's up to him. Everything I do is up to him, right? He will tell me when it's time to stop. maybe I'm going to write another book. That's going to be time consuming. That's going to require me to be focused on that and not the other things around me. So there's going to be people that feel I'm not spending enough time with them. What about, so am I happy playing music, writing books, doing stuff like this, and making just a living, or do I want to go and take a bunch of courses, go work in construction, hate my life the whole time. There's times when I may be a better vessel, but I could do all that stuff, and I got people that could guide me in that direction, and I could make a whole crap ton more money, but at what cost? Like, I don't want what you have. Like, you have a great thing and it looks really great, but that I don't think I would enjoy it as much as you do. I don't want to, I'll be honest. Like, there's some things about me, like, I don't want to own a house. For one, the market's awful. Two, like, it's a constant thing you got to worry about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, when you own a house, it's like, what about when your water heater goes? What about when your roof goes? What about when this goes? And it's like your insurance. And it's just like, I would sooner just like have my own space and come and go when I want. You know what I mean? That works for me. That doesn't work for other people. Other people are going, that's just like teenage mentality. And it's like, yeah, but it's kind of where I'm at. It's not teenage mentality. It's knowing what I want, what I don't want. And today that's not worrying about cutting my grass. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. It doesn't mean I won't, but it just means, like, why am I going to put myself in a situation where I got to do more things I don't want to do to look good for somebody else? Like, I'm just not going to do that today. It would be great if everybody looked at thought of me and went, oh, look at Chad, man. He got his crap together. He bought a house. He did this. He did that. And it's like, yeah, but instead you're going to look at me and I'm on stage, or I just put out a book or whatever. And I'm not rich. Not rich. I may never be rich. That's up to him. But I'm telling you that, I'm doing what I want to do.
You could still look really cool mowing the grass. Do that. You can get like a blacked out John Deere, put some spikes on the sucker.
Oh yeah. If I have to do that, that's how I'm doing it, bro. I'm blacking out the John Deere.
Big skull on the front. You're just giving you ideas.
No,
I got this one last. I don't think I'm really skipping anything. I'm good with it. I got to talk about this because this was pretty big. This kind of leads to where and what you're doing these days. I mean, you do have a job. You are working with other addicts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm kind of
all kinds of, like, it's not just addicts. I work in a field where it's called a youth wellness hub. So basically, it's like anybody from 12 to 25 that's struggling. It could be addiction, but it could be homelessness.
Right, my bad.
Just mental health. Oh, no bad. Just, it's all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Youth worker, I'm a youth worker. Like, I do all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I should have known that. Preluding into that, you did work years ago at this made me mad a little bit. A pre-treatment house. You worked for a couple that owned it that seemed like they were really compassionate and caring, that everything was good, but appearances were deceiving. Like the meal, I got examples of, like, the meals were bad. They had to have a gym membership to even take showers, yada, yada, yada. So talk about that however you want. And then there's the big part of that, not that the whole thing isn't big, but one of the biggest things that came out of that was a patient that worked there, or that lived there, ended up ODing and being in a coma. And I'll let you. Yeah, I won't ruin that. So you go ahead.
It started out with, like, a couple friends of mine started it, and it was before the government was involved with it. So they were just running, like, a home for people, and mostly addicts seeking refuge and things like that. But then, like everything else, when it starts becoming non-for-profit, things change, right? And it's about numbers and statistics and things like that, right? So these people were like, I really had a lot of love and respect for them. Like, I really admired them. They were always so kind to me, right? Like, so kind to me. And I would go to the place on my free time when and I would just do peer support. I would show up once a week and run little workshops with them and do whatever. And then as they progressed and they started, I watched the guy who started it. I watched him walk away from it because just some things were going on, and I didn't know what was going on in there, right? And he walked away from it, and the guy that was running it, the final guy, I had a lot of love and respect for him, like a lot of love and respect for him. And he asked me if I wanted to work there, and I accepted the offer because I took a pay cut to go there because I just wanted to be of service. And like I said, I just trusted him a lot. And so when I got there, the manager that was working there, I don't know what her deal was, but she was really not very honest, very insecure, and not a good person, just like compulsive liar, always like promiscuous, living under Christ. You know what I mean? Like, given people who would leave the house and relapse refuge, sleeping with clients, things like that. Right. And, I kept that stuff to myself. I knew it, but I was just hoping that maybe the stuff I was being told wasn't true. Right. And so when I was in there and working, I mean, the way they ran it, like I was there, I think 3 or 4 months, and, they would get donations for lunch, and they would have to, they would get so many because this company, if they didn't, I used to say to them, why don't you tell them you don't need as much? Right. Because if we don't take it, they won't give it to us next time. Right. So they would take it from this like place, and, in this place where other people could have used it, you know what I mean? And things like that. And then one time, like if they didn't eat it for lunch, they got it for supper, or the next night for lunch, or you just had to go through it all. And like, and one time it was like hot dogs, and they fed them hot dogs for 4 days to the point where 3 guys, it was almost like a hunger strike. They were just like, we're not eating, man. Right. And so, some things were going on. I was butting heads with the manager a lot because she was lying about a lot of stuff. And I went in there, of course, like I'm Chad, I'm very loud. I'm very opinionated. And, again, my walk was pretty new. So I didn't have the discernment to just handle things better than I could have. So, I butted heads with her a lot, and she just lied all the time. And she would go to them and say things that didn't happen. I can remember some altercations I had with some of the clients, and they were greatly exaggerated. And I was never allowed, whenever I wanted to fill out my part of the form, because there's always a report, right? So it was like, Chad had an altercation with this person. So it was like, okay, I want to fill out my report. And there was never time for me to do it, right? And this only happened twice, but I never got to fill out my form. They made sure I didn't, right? And I remember at one point I found out like that the manager had been sleeping with previous clients while they were in the house, and things like that. And she even got married and was doing the same thing, right? And I brought it to them, and I said, like, first of all, she's lying all the time about this stuff, and well, this isn't, and I would always get, whenever I'd bring something up that I thought was not good, like with the food or the way the clients are being treated, I would always get told, this isn't the Chad show. This isn't the Chad show. And I'd be like, I'm not trying to make it the Chad show. I'm saying what's going on here is not cool. And they would like flip, they would fight with each other. Like they're executive directors, and they're in there fighting with each other at the top of their lungs upstairs, while the clients are downstairs hearing them screaming and yelling at each other and like wanting to leave. And there was no, like, they had water in there, but they wouldn't let them shower there. They'd make them shower at the gym. And I'm going like, I don't really dig what's going on here. I was in this really moral dilemma with it. Right. And I can remember like there was rules, but they weren't concrete rules. So for instance, my phone number was on the whiteboard in the house. So there was no Chad's off on, at 6 o'clock. It was Chad's off, but here's his number. If you need him for anything, you want to talk to him, you want to connect with him, whatever. When the guys would go to treatment, on my day off, I'd have no problem coming in and driving them, and that was okay. But here was the big thing about it that really was awful was so it's about numbers. So you come into the pre-treatment house, right? And their job is to get you into a rehab facility. Now, they don't care what rehab facility that is, as long as they'll accept you. So they're not finding out what's best for the client or whatever. Maybe that wasn't the mission, but they're not finding that out. So every client that goes in there pretty much goes to rehab. But while they're in rehab, they send them to this really disgusting rehab out in Toronto, where there's like a tent city right beside it. You know what I mean? And it's like they end up going out there, and if they even make it, they relapse. Then when they relapse, they come back to the house, right? To the pre-treatment house, and they just were recycling the addicts, right? And it was like
body brokering.
Dude, it was disgusting. And then it was like, but on paper, they're getting everybody into rehab. So it looks fantastic. It looks like they're doing their job. They got this staff who other organizations are calling this staff member out, the manager. She's lying about me. She's doing all this stuff. And I got my friend a job there. They were mistreating her. And at this point, nobody really knows what to do. They were letting me drive one of their cars. You know what I mean? They were paying me really well. And I'm in this dilemma. So I have this vehicle. I have this car. I have, a decent paycheck. But my job is miserable. Like everything going on in there is disgusting, and at one point I just said, like, I prayed on it, and God said, you can't be there anymore. And it would be this, all this stuff would be going on, but then all of a sudden, they need pictures. So they cook all this really great food and take pictures of it and then post that on the page, right? Like all this tokenism, crazy stuff that's going on, or take them somewhere as a group and then take pictures of it. But like in the 4 months I was there, they never went anywhere. But now every time I, like something will pop up, I'll see them at this function, and I'm going like, so what the Lord said to me was, you need to walk away because people know how much you love this work. So if you walk away, it'll do two things. It'll expose it or it'll fix it. Right. And, but before I walked away, this was like the final straw for me was, we were allowed to bend all the rules when it was to their benefit. Like we had a problem with one guy in there, and I would come in on my days off just to connect with him in the morning and go, okay, we good? Like, cause he trusted me. Right. And that was cool. I come in on my days off. I could drive him to rehab. They could call me whenever they wanted. But this one young man overdosed and he was in a coma. He wasn't supposed to come out of it. He wasn't supposed to live. And I have many ministries. Like I'm a part of worldwide ministries all over the place where people pray on others and bring them in. And so I took his name to the ministries, and I went to the hospital and prayed on him, and I got penalized for it. I got in trouble because I wasn't supposed to go there without their permission. Even though I had built the rapport with this kid, I was friends with this kid. I prayed with his mother over this kid. And I was penalized for going to the hospital. And at that point, that's when the Lord said, you can't be part of this anymore because people are catching on, and you have to leave. So I left, right? And I walked away from it. And what the weird thing is, since I've left, they've opened up a few more houses, right? But now I constantly see things asking for donations. So I don't know what that looks like. And I hear that the manager's behavior hasn't changed, right? Still things going on and whatnot. So, and again, I stay out of it now because it's none of my business. But that young man that I was praying over just got 10 months clean, and I'm his sponsor. Right. So that shows you the relationship between him and I, right? Everybody, like, I'd say out of the 23 people that were in and out of that house from the time I was there, there was only 3 that I don't get along with. And it wasn't about hating on them. It was just, they didn't like the rules of the house. So, I had to be assertive at times. Right. And, just a lot of like freezers full of beef and meat. And then the one day I saw them take steaks home for themselves. That was just one of those, like, what is going on here? Like it was, I was just like, I can't be part of this anymore. I just
sounds like some Hunger Games stuff.
And finally it was like, I remember having that struggle, and I was going like, is this ego? Like, did I quit out of ego because I'm better than this? Or did I quit because it was really the right thing to do? But I felt the Lord had spoken to me. Right. And I got to church, and my pastor came up to me. He's just like, something's up. What's up with you? And I'm paraphrasing, and I was just like, I'm good, man. I said, I'll talk to you after. And that was when he prophesied over me. He stopped the service, and he just flat out, and I can show you the clip. I actually have the clip. I'll send it to you. I don't know if I have or not,
I've seen it. You said it to me before.
Yeah. And
it's powerful.
He stopped and he was and he said everything I was thinking. And he told me this isn't ego. It's about integrity. And I never said anything to him. He didn't know anything about what I was struggling with. Right. But, it's the saddest part about that for me is that manager is still running it. She's a vile human being. I pray that God sorts her out. One of the most vile, disgusting people I've ever known in my life. And the funny thing is all they do is talk nonsense about me. Like, you know what I mean? They'll reach out to people and go, you still talk to that idiot. You know what I mean? And it's funny. And I hope one of them are watching right now because the funny thing is how on Facebook you can see when people look at your stories.
Yeah.
He looks at my story every day. Every day he looks at my story. Right. Hi, Claire. It is the Chad Show. Just so you know. And you're watching me and I see you watching me and that's okay. Keep watching because that's what the next right thing looks like, brother. Try that.
Nice. That's nice.
Amen.
God has your name. That was one of the things. That was like the thing that what Pastor Franks had said, or when he was getting that message.
Yeah.
To tell you that you're making the right choice.
Yeah.
That you'll be okay.
Powerful.
Man. I know what I'm going to end on. I got this last question that leads into my last one. I would tell him, don't take betrayal personally. They'd have done it to anyone. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, I used to, when somebody would wrong me, I always took it so personal. And I realized that, crappy people sometimes are just crappy people. And if it wasn't me, it'd be someone else. Right. And it's like when somebody steals from you, I guarantee you're probably not the only person they stole from. And it's like,
don't make yourself more special than you are.
Right. And it's like, when people betray you, it's like, they would have done that to anyone. Right. So it's like, I just happen to be the one that put myself in arm's length. Right. So.
Yeah. Deb said, well, you sent me that. I think you were the one that sent me that movie, Body Brokers. Wasn't you?
Body Brokers?
Yeah. You never seen that? Who mentioned that to me then? You'd have to see that. That's about based on a true story. I swear it was you. And I talked to a lot of people. It must have been somebody else. But cool. It's called Body Brokers. You got to see it. It's free on YouTube. And it's based on a true story. This kid was an addict. His girlfriend was an addict. He gets into rehab. But then there's these people there that work that kind of, once they get out of rehab, they kind of get them back into
oh yeah, I heard about that through Boston 2%. He told me
okay.
So
the trap houses that they get them back in and they make so much money by just recycling. Yeah. And it's a real thing. Deb said that body broker investigations need to begin. They need to do like a Nick Shirley or James O'Keefe, undercover stuff and get these places shut down. There's people on Facebook that are operating on stuff like that I believe too. And it's evil. I think you're just profiting off of people's addiction.
Well, when you take, when you were a biker and you just find out a way to make money on other people without shaking them down, right? You corner the market on something like there's no other pre-treatment houses around here. They've cornered the market on it all around here. So the only place to go is there, right? And, and again, it's the recycling. And there's guys that have been in there 10 times. And that's fine, but it's like they go out, they relapse, they come back and they hand over their government check, right?
There's no money in the cure.
There's never been any money.
Deb, she said, I got it. My memory is horrible. Well, then tell me who sent us that movie. I don't know. She's right though. My memory is pretty bad, but and there's tons. I guarantee you, there's tons in Canada and the United States for sure. I mean, obviously, it was based on a true story. The way that movie ended, was really, really sad and stuff. If you ever get a chance to watch it, watch it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's free on YouTube.
Check it out.
let me end on this one. May 31st, 2021. What's that day? You got a video of that day, I think.
It's my
Go ahead and take us through that.
Every year. Yeah. It's so amazing. So I woke up and again, I was on a 2-year run, you know, and when I think about it, I just get happy. Right. And my wife wouldn't get out of bed because she finally fell asleep. I think I slept for about 20 minutes and I had my daughter and she was out on the couch and I walked out and she was sleeping. And then I got down by her feet and I just got on my knees because I didn't know what else to do anymore. And I got on my knees, you know, and I looked up and I just said, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Whatever that is. And I just remember just the honey. And it was just like this. And it just went like this. And it just went like this. And I was on my knees and I was crying and I was laughing hysterically at the same time. And I was like, and it just was like, you got to get better, man. Because if you don't, you're both going to die. You know, and all the answers were just like boom, 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 boom. And at that point, it was just like, I again, just like what happened at Owen and Gail's house, I walked in like I was stone cold sober again. And I woke her up and I was just like, you want to go for a ride down to the lake or something? She brought her bike. And I had a bike at the time. And I called my son. I said, grab Tyson. That's my grandson. I said, grab him and let's go down to the lake. And he met us down there and we skipped rocks and just bought French fries or something and just had a good time. And I remember coming home that day and I just kept taking videos, man. And I was like, I want to remember this moment forever. And I walked in and it was almost time for my daughter to go home and her mom was downstairs. So I took her downstairs. I took her home. I came upstairs and my wife was getting up out of bed finally. And it was probably about 5 p.m. And I sat down and I said, you need to come and sit here. Right. And she came and she sat with me and I said, it changes from here. Right. It changes from here. And of course she just doesn't want to get into it. Right. Why would you? And she's like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, no, listen, like it's different now. And I didn't get into the whole honey thing because I didn't even know what that was. I just knew something was different. Right. I knew it was God, but I mean, explaining what the Holy Spirit is, I didn't understand that. Right. So, and I just was like, it's different. And I said, and if you can't do it, this is where it ends for me. Right. This is where this ends. So if you can't do it, you need to tell me and we need to make an arrangement because it's not, drugs can never come into this house again. Right. And so we agreed on that. And then it was like a year of me staying clean and her constantly, I want to say relapsing, but you have to stop in order to relapse. And I don't believe anybody ever stopped. Right. So, and then, you know, when I got to my 1 year, you know, she decided you know, and when you're in an active addiction, you gaslight and you lie and you manipulate. So it was much easier for her to make me a bad guy and, you know, say that I was mean and abusive and all those things instead of getting clean. So I walked in from my 1 year medallion to my apartment empty and a wedding dress and my Valyear hoodie on top of it in the middle of my floor. And that's how I celebrated my 1 year medallion after I got back to my empty house. Right. And I just sat on my floor and looked at the dress and looked at the hoodie. And the weirdest thing was I just thank God that I'm still clean. And I was a year clean at that point. Right. And now, like, you know, but I remember getting like 6 days clean and being like blown away that I was 6 days clean, going, if I can get 6 days, I can get 7. Right. And then when I got 7, I got 8, and then I got a month, you know, and then that 1 year, man, like I worked so hard. Like, can you imagine getting clean in a house with a using addict? Right. Right. And in that time, like that year, I got so sick in her addiction. Right. I had to start going to a 12-step group, Nar-Anon. I started going to that. And because I I didn't know enough to put proper boundaries in my home at that point. I really ruined the relationship with my youngest daughter. And I don't have a relationship with her now, so it's just that kind of thing where it was just like, I got clean in the house and I didn't, and again, getting clean was learning how to put up proper boundaries. And I didn't do that. Right. And my daughter said something really, really profound, near the end, of that year. And she was just like, I don't like her when she's using, but even worse, I don't like you when she's using. Right.
Huh.
And it was a really powerful moment because I didn't like me when she was using either. Right. Mm-hmm.
So,
but May 31st will be 5 years, buddy.
man.
Mm-hmm.
I told you what that picture of the wedding dress and the hoodie on the floor.
Yeah, it's a video or an album cover.
I mean, it did, and I was just like, wow, that's powerful and it's intriguing. And to get that year under those circumstances, God had His hand of protection on you that whole time.
Yeah,
but it's kind of ironic though, in a way that He didn't make that year easy at all. He said, okay, well,
you want it? Let's see.
Yeah, he really made it worth it. But the fact that you have that video of that first day, to me, it shows some kind of like confidence beyond your own creating.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world? Where would you have gotten any kind of confidence? Because you didn't. How many 24 hours did you have? You had some, I guess, but it all ended. It all started back up again.
Mm-hmm.
No videos any other time that you were sober. No. This one, I'm going to start the camera. Let's go get some fries and go down to the lake and fly a kite.
Man, that changed it. Like, I knew that honey was something. That warm honey around my heart. I was just like, game on. And like the crying, like the cleansing, right? And him going, I love you, I got you. You're gonna get through this, and just knowing like you're forgiven, man. Like, I was forgiven, and when I couldn't forgive myself, and I'm on my knees, and He's going, I got you, child. And you have to, He didn't say it then, but He said it since. Like, you got to start showing up for other people like you, right? That's your job now, and whatever that looks like, that's what you're going to do, right? And it's not easy, man, because I don't like a lot of the way the world is today, and I work in a field where it requires me to do that. I have to be not okay with it in my heart, but I have to present as though I am, and it's like, and in the big picture, like, I'm not here to change anybody's life in that regard. Like, do you, boo? Like, but you know what I mean? I don't have to, to love everything. I just got to not let it affect me being able to do my job. Right. And it's like, my job is to love you regardless. And my job is to be there for you regardless. Right. Well,
that's what you needed all these years. You needed who you are now to these other people.
Right. And today, I can say it confidently and not arrogantly. Like, I'm a good man, Trav. Like, and I know I am, and I'll fight for that. Right. I wasn't always, but today, like, I will not tolerate, somebody else being made to feel less than for any reason.
Yeah. No, I like that.
And I will not accept betrayal. If betrayal was forgivable, Satan would be back in heaven. Right. And so I just look at it like that. Like, I'm not here to, I can love you. You just don't get access to me anymore.
Sure.
Right? And you can eat, just not at my table. Right. And I'm okay with all of that. I don't hate anybody. I'm not angry with anybody anymore. I'm in a good way with just about everybody, and that's the man I want to be today. I want people to know who I am before I have to talk about it.
Yeah. If you've got peace for yourself nowadays, you do get to make those choices, and you have to make those choices. You cannot let everybody in there. There is no earth-sized table to sit at, if you know what I mean. And I think that's okay. I think it's mandatory, to be honest with you. I mean, you can't let everybody in, man.
No, man.
I've been trying to find the picture in this book for the last 10 minutes. I don't know why, but April 7th, 2024. That was like the last thing I wanted to have you mention, because that's what's that day?
April 7th, 2024.
Yeah.
Is that when I got baptized?
Yeah. That's a surprise.
That was one of the greatest moments in my life.
Yeah, there's a picture in here. I've been looking and I can't find it, but
yeah,
it's you getting baptized. If people need to know, I don't know. I'll find it as soon as I don't.
I remember the Lord telling me to do it, and to me, I didn't know. I thought baptism was for Catholics. And I'm like, I'm not a Catholic
for a while,
right? And I remember realizing what it was for. Like, it was just a public declaration, right? And I remember making the decision, and it was like, he was waking me up to tell me you need to do it, right? And then I made the decision, and I signed up for it, and I talked to my pastor, and I remember showing up, and I remember standing there, and I remember just breaking down, caked in the Holy Spirit, brother. And I was crying and crying, and my sponsor was there. My best friend was there. My daughter showed up, and we don't even have a relationship. She showed up for the baptism, and I thought it was pretty cool. My wife at the time, she showed up. And yeah, it was like something. And I remember getting in that water, and I remember just like being ready, and Pastor Frank, he looked at me, and I was crying, man. And he just said, like, the Lord's been blessing you. He's going to keep blessing you. And he goes, and he said a bunch of really powerful things to me. And I went in that water, and when I came out, I was like completely different person. And I know that's not what it is per se. Like, it's only a public declaration. That's all it is. But I'm telling you, I came out of that water different. And I just was like, it changed everything. Like, and it just, from then on, it was the equivalent. I don't want to say the equivalent, because it was much more, much more, but the equivalent of getting a white key tag. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it was like, this is who I am now, and this is how I'm going to present. I'm no longer going to let drugs control my life. Right. And I'm going to live as such. When I went into that water and I came out, it was like, no, now I'm a Christian. I am a Christian, but now, I'm baptized, and I'm publicly letting the world know that I'm going to live my best as a Christian. That doesn't mean I'm not going to make any mistakes. It means that I'm going to do my best to walk with the Lord properly. Right. And everybody's going to know who I am now. And that's who I am first before anything else. Right. And that was a powerful moment for me. And from then on, it was when things started changing. Like, that's when things, the Lord would talk to me directly. Like, it was almost like I got a direct link after that. And he put me in the microwave, and yeah, it's like he just gave me the crash course. Like, I live with my friend Paula, and she always says that the Lord put you in the microwave. And she watched the Lord build me from the ground up, right? And it's just like, it must have been, I always ask her, because, sorry, I got the cough drop in my mouth.
Well, what do you mean by microwave? Do you mean like
Give me the fast, like, I need you ready fast.
Oh, okay. I get that. I think I can relate to that somewhat, man. I mean, these 2 years, I don't feel sometimes like I should be as far along in my faith as I am, but it's unshakable. Yeah. I like how you said that. I might have to steal it.
What's that?
The microwave thing.
For sure. I always ask Paula, what was it like watching this, man? Like, what was it like watching this from the ground up? Because I love hearing the story. She knew me before I was saved. She knew me when I had just got clean, right? So she was like, she got to watch the Lord build me, right? And so
The
so I guess I
transformation.
was saved, but like, because I'd already accepted him and the Holy Spirit into my life, right? But I wasn't quite tight with the walk. It was like, okay, I'm here, I believe in God, but here's all these other things. So
Right.
someone watch me get built from the ashes, and I often ask her that story because I love it when she tells it.
She got to see you come up from the dark.
Yeah, she sure did.
That wasn't planned. That was just.
That's right. And it's like, it's cool because it's like, I've gone through a lot since I've known her, and she's got to watch me scream and cry and all that good stuff. Yes, sir.
Wow. I knew we'd go over 3 hours, brother.
Me too.
But I mean, I had to get my questions in. That's all I had for you. I just want, how do you think this went? Was this pretty decent?
That was good, bro.
Pretty thorough.
Yeah, I know. I always have fun with you, man. So it worked out good. Telling you, this seat's ready. I could break my back.
I hear you. I'm ready to stretch out. And plus, I was like, man, right before, like about 5 o'clock, I was starting to like not feel so good again. I'm like, oh boy. I was like, come on, I'll be fine. But like, I'm still sore from like being sick that whole week. But
yeah,
when there's a job to do, I guess God will be like, doesn't matter if you're sick, you'll be fine.
He'll decide.
So, brother, before signing off, we didn't even really talk about the music stuff. You got a band called Valyear. You play all over. Mention anything you want about that, dates you got coming up, how people can, access your music. And then if this cat don't get out of my way, the cat's a fan. Just leave everybody with some words of encouragement. Anything else you want to mention that we didn't cover?
Yeah, I think as far as the music, we can talk about that another time for sure.
Okay.
Words of encouragement, man. All I can say is that there's always a way out. I promise. Like, all you have to do is want it and show up. It's like somebody said to me one time, showing up is half of life. I always say, turn your life over, man. It's a lot better on this side. And I guarantee you that if you decide you don't like it, whatever you had out there is still waiting for you. Right? Like,
go back out and see if it got any better. No, don't go back out, but it don't get any better. Like, I don't know why I quit. No.
Yeah. And the only rock bottom you can't come back from is death. So, if the Lord can work the way he does in my life today, I promise you he can work in yours. I promise.
I back you on that 100%, man. I went from not wanting to live anymore to really having the best 2 years of my life. Not financially speaking, but I can't chase that stuff anymore. But just growing and being in this relationship with Deb and stuff, and meeting so many wonderful people that's helped me along this path, it's nothing I'd be willing to trade going back out there for anything.
Once you know, you can't unknow, brother. And like,
that's the thing. Like I can't always say that. I don't know what people get into drugs and alcohol for. A lot of it's to fit in, to belong, to feel secure, to feel seen, to hide, whatever. But every reason, no matter what it is, for people to start that pathway of drugs and alcohol, when you're blessed enough and fortunate enough to have this come to Jesus moment and to feel what that changes in your life fundamentally, that we can't change ourselves and we were never going to change ourselves.
Right.
It's everything that you're like, oh, that's what I was really after. Not even like the superficial things. I mean, and I don't mean superficial, like, well, they wanted to numb out because the bad stuff happened to them. I get all that, but the honey is what we were after.
That's right.
Everything. And once you get that, you're like, this is what I really wanted to be hooked on. I wanted this feeling, like, okay, things still might go bad. Things are going to, happen. That's not good or fun, but
Right.
I don't have to rely on just myself and my own choices to get through this. I mean, it always comes down to choices, but
Right.
with having God there at the center of it,
Yep.
that's really the only choice you need to make. Is like, I'm not going to go make this worse. I
Right.
know what happens when I go make this worse.
Yeah, trust
You know
me.
what I mean? There's not one situation, and I would ask anybody to prove this to me. Name one time where God made something worse in your life. And people will be like, well, this. I'm like, well, what happened after though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, the other thing I always say to people, who do you know that ever regretted getting clean? Right?
Nobody.
No.
I mean, there's not that's a zero too. That'd be an interesting interview. I would like to find somebody who regretted getting sober. I'd love to talk to him about that.
Yeah,
because I'd be so curious. I'd have to. I'm like, how?
Make that a 3-way. I'd like to be in on that.
I'd want it. That'd be like make that make sense. It's the Make That Make Sense podcast. We have people that regret getting sober today. I'm like, holy cow. Yeah. You never know, right? Nothing new under the sun.
No, sir.
Chad, brother, this has been fantastic. My voice is starting to get crappy now. So, this was, I think I'm even cutting it short, but I think you got to go too. You got a cough drop in. When do you play again? When's your next gig?
February 28th here in Oshawa, and we're working on the tour schedule. We had a bunch of dates, but the main band dropped off. So now we're going to be headlining that tour. As soon as we get the dates, I'll be posting them. But as of right now, February 28th in Oshawa at the Atria. We're playing with Birdie and Revmatic. It's going to be a good show. We just played 2 nights ago at the Rock Pile in Toronto. It was so good. Great turnout. I mean, I was sick as hell. My voice kept blowing out, but we performed enough that most people probably didn't even notice. But yeah, it's a good time, man. Like, we're on fire right now, band wise. We're just at a place where even at our worst, we're still better than a lot, you know. And I say that confidently because we worked hard to get there. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah, man. I look forward to you playing in the States someday. I think that'd be very awesome.
It's happening. We're gonna make that happen. Like, where are you?
I'm in this great state of Illinois.
Illinois.
Not
I wonder how far that is from me. I'm gonna find out.
Well, Michigan and Minnesota. I don't know. Oshawa. I don't know. Is that north?
Toronto. We're gonna say Toronto, right?
Okay, that's a few hundred miles. Yeah. At least a day and a half.
All right. Let's never say never.
No, I'd learn not to say that anymore.
I'm going to make it a mission to hit Illinois.
Bro,
clubs out there.
Yeah, there could be. I mean, Springfield's like the main city. We got a lot of issues in this state for sure, man, that every other state has, but Lincoln isn't too bad. We're right in the middle of Illinois. But yeah, even this little town has its issues. Like, there's no place is exempt from it, but it's what you want to choose to see. You want to just keep your focus on the ugly, or find the things that are beautiful that are around you too. So I just try to do that.
Me too.
Brother, I appreciate you, man. I love you as a brother. I knew when we first started talking, I'm like, I hope this dude likes me. He's cool. I want to talk to him. I don't want to just do an interview. I want to grow with people. That's what I hope God is doing for me too. Other than getting their stories out.
Now, bro. We're lifers now.
I hope so, man. I'm about to get me a Valyear tat.
Deal.
You're going to get the GVR on you somewhere. Start working on that song for your mom. I can't wait to hear it.
Sold.
Brother, you want to pray us out? Chad Valyear, everybody. This is the book that we did this whole Q&A on, Up From the Dark. I'll add the Amazon link on there, or you could type it in and look for it. But it's a fantastic book. I loved it. Thank you so much for living through it to write it. And if you'd pray us out, brother, I'd appreciate it.
All right. Lord, Father God, thank you tonight for giving Trav all the right things to ask and pointing out where you were in my life that I didn't even realize at times, Lord. I pray that you just keep giving us the discernment we need to get through these times in this crazy world that we're living in right now. And I pray that you keep using me and Travis as vessels and spreading your word and letting the world know that we're here and to take back territory and to know that we are here to fight whatever demons come our way, Lord. And I pray that you you just keep sending your laborers and your intercessors out to expose yourself to the people that need to see you, Lord, and expose yourself to our families and friends that haven't seen you yet in the way that we see you, Lord. And please just keep watching over and blessing us in ways, even when we don't understand what your motive is. Please keep us in your favor always, Lord, in Jesus' mighty, mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Brother, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Love you, bro.
Love you too.
Get out.